We are coming to you from beautiful Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, where this afternoon, WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. It's Jose Abreu, Todd Frazier, Brett Laurie, and our Sox as they get set to battle with Joe Girardi's New York Yankees. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson. My partner Steve Stone is not here, and on loan from MLB is Dan Plesac, a man who has done the first two games with us here. He split them. He's done a good job. We've had two good baseball games. But Dan also a terrific analyst, three-time All-Star and 18-year veteran in the major leagues. But today, we've got a nice pitching matchup out there.
It is. Miguel Gonzalez against Masahiro Tanaka. First of all, let's talk about Miguel Gonzalez. In his last start, he was actually pretty good. 5 2/3 allowed 1 run in Arlington against those Texas Rangers. And I think right now, Robin Ventura, if he could get 5 solid innings and turn things over to that bullpen, he'll be just pleased with that. On the other hand, for the Yankees, their ace, Masahiro Tanaka, the Japanese import, is off to a little bit of a sluggish start. He's the one guy Joe Girardi Yankees feel he is their ace. Roughed up in his last one, 6 earned runs, 3 via the home run, 2 of those by Lorenzo Cain against the Kansas City Royals. So he's looking to bounce back, their best pitcher.
Well, we've got 2 guys on our club that are really swinging the bat well.
Well, Todd Frazier and Adam Eaton. And I think if we want to win this last game of this road trip, we need to get something out of both of these guys. Todd Frazier yesterday hit his 12th home run of the year, a solo shot, the lone run for the White Sox off of Ivan Nova. And on the other end of that, Adam Eaton. He's had a really terrific series. He's had a good road trip, and he's had a lot of success in his career against the New York Yankees. So Adam Eaton at the top of the order and Todd Frazier in the middle part of that order. Those guys can produce. I think we have a chance to do some good things on this Sunday afternoon.
All right, rubber match of this 3-game set, so sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
High Definition is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity One will change the way you experience TV. Robert Ventura's Chicago first place White Sox lineup. Adam Eaton on top. Austin Jackson, Jose Abreu, Todd Frazier, 12 home runs on the year. Melky Cabrera hitting fifth. Brett Lawrie, Abisail Garcia, Alex Avila, and Tyler Saladino taking over at shortstop for the White Sox. The Yankees defensively. From left to right, Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury back in the lineup, bothered a little bit by right hip strain. Dustin Ackley in right. Ronald Torreyes, D.G. Gregorius, Starlin Castro, Mark Teixeira, Brian McCann, and on the mound, Masahiro Tanaka. There's a good look at Masahiro Tanaka, the ace of the New York Yankees, off to a little bit of a slow start. 1-0 on the year. You see the ERA at 3.11. I think one of the things that sticks out, 46 in the third innings, only 36 hits allowed. This was the one guy that the Yankees, in particular manager Joe Girardi, really was leaning on when the season started with a starting rotation. CC Sabathia right now on the disabled list with a hamstring. Friday night starter Luis Severino left with some tricep problems. So the Yankees banking on their ace, this guy right here, Masahiro Tanaka. He is their best pitcher. Well, that said, with the umpires behind home plate, Clint Fagan, Mike Winters, the crew chief at first, Marty Foster at second base, and at third base, Mike Milchinski. With that said, it's time to turn things over to the voice of White Sox baseball, the one and only Hawk Harrelson.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. And once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports. So happy you could join us for the finale of this three-game set. It will be the rubber match and also the finale of this six-game road trip. As you know, we won the first game down in Texas and lost the last two. We won the first game here behind Chris Sale's 8th consecutive victory by a score of 7-1. And then yesterday, it was just that man having another tough luck day. He pitched outstanding, but it was just a good baseball game we lost, Danny.
You know, simply the case, one batting, 26 pitch, second inning, had an 0-2 count on Chase Headley. It turned into a double that turned into a run that ended up an inning that got away from him, and a tough game to lose, but what we saw yesterday, we need to stay away from today, Hawk. That is that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, Betances, Miller, and Chapman, the back of that bullpen.
That was the big talk in the clubhouse after the game yesterday, because none of us have ever seen that before. Anyway, here we go. And before we show you our picks to click you at home, select yours. Adam Eaton. Adam takes that downstairs. Adam comes in at 305. He's 4 for 8 in this series. Adam has faced Tanaka 3 times. He's 0 for 3.
What teams have tried to do this year, at least against Tanaka, his best pitch is the split finger pitch. Teams are trying to get ahead to try to get a pitch to hit early in the count to stay away from that split finger, his best pitch.
2-1. Sox come in hitting at 251 as a team with a 3.11 ERA. And there's a soft ground ball. Second base, 1 out. So right now with 1 out, let's check out our picks to click this afternoon. To manage our director and the crew, well, they went with Tyler. Dan's had 2 winners in 2 days. He and Steve are going to go with Avi. And Josh and Jill and I, big White Sox fans living here in New York. I mean, huge White Sox fans. We're going to go with Alex Avila. Here's Austin Jackson.
You know, we talk about the price of pitching. We were talking about how it has escalated over the years. The Yankees paid dearly to get the rights to Tanaka, paid a $20 million posting fee to his team in Japan, the Rakuten Eagles, just to get the chance to negotiate with this right-hander and signed him, Hawk, to a 7-year, $155 million deal. So almost $200 million invested into this guy right here, Tanaka.
Wow. Well, I'm glad to see them get it. One thing about it, the owners are smart people, smart businessmen. They wouldn't be paying it unless they could afford it.
Now, on the flip side, I'm sure the Yankee front office, they're deflecting that. He's had some issues with that right elbow. 2014, his first year with the Yankees, off to a flying start. He was 12-4 at the All-Star break. Made the All-Star team. There's a good look at that hard breaking ball, that slider down and away to Austin Jackson. See this pitch right here. He gets ahead with a fastball. There's that hard breaking ball. That's the slider. His best pitch, you'll see primarily against the lefties, is that split finger. Getting back to the elbow issues, he had an MRI in July of that year, right after the All-Star break. They found a partial tear in his UCL, which is normally means Tommy John surgery. He elected not to have the surgery. So a lot of people on edge, Yankee fans, wondering if that right elbow is going to hold up for Tanaka.
And as you well know, I know you can't name them, but as you well know, there were some clubs that pulled out of that because of that issue.
And I think one of the big concerns in the industry, you go back and Hideo Noma was the first really Japanese pitcher that came over that had some success with the Dodgers, is in Japan normally they pitch on that 6-day rotation. And here in the States, it's a 5-day rotation. And it leads a lot of people to believe that that's some of the problems that Tanaka's had. And you go with the Rangers, Yu Darvish has had the same thing with the Tommy John surgery on his left elbow. He supposedly will be back by the end of June.
1-1 pitch to Abreu. Well, it's just night and day. It's just an unbelievable difference pitching in a 5-day rotation or a 6-day rotation. Or in years past, pitching in a 4-man rotation, and then it went to a 5-man rotation. And even prior to that, the White Sox had a 67. They went with a 3-man rotation for a long time. And they would throw 5 or 6 minutes of BP in between starts.
And I guess the best way to equate that to an everyday player's term, you know, that grind of 162 games, it takes its toll on you. That would be like every position player, hockey, getting a chance like every Monday, getting that one extra day. It's a huge difference.
2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ate him up inside, softly hit. Castro gets it. Easy inning right there for Tanaka after half inning of play. It's our guys nothing, and their guys coming to bat.
Girardi's going to send out there for his New York Yankees. Jacoby Ellsbury back in the top of the order. Brett Gardner, Carlos Beltran sitting on 399 career home runs. Mark Teixeira hitting 4th. Brian McCann, former Cub Starlin Castro, Dustin Ackley, Didi Gregorius, and Ronald Torreyes hitting 9th for the Yankees. White Sox defensively, Melky Cabrera in left, Austin Jackson and Adam Eaton, one of the best outfield defenses in the game right now. Todd Frazier, Tyler Saladino takes over at short for Jimmy Rollins, Brett Lawrie, Jose Abreu, Alex Avila, and on the mound, Miguel Gonzalez, making his third start for the White Sox. His last start Monday against the Rangers, not too bad, 5 2/3, 1 run allowed, ERA of 4.91, 5 walks, 10 strikeouts.
So here's Ellsbury, 32-year-old outfielder, hitting at .260 a homer. He's driven in 9. Miguel's got his work cut out for him today. All these left-handers in there, switch hitters. Brett, yes. No, he just could not come up with it. That'll be a base hit.
Pretty good pitch here. Brett Lawrie does a good job going to his backhand side. A one hopper, takes a tough hop there on Abreu. Scored an infield base hit.
Well, he knew the speed of Ellsbury. He knew he had to get rid of it in a hurry. So a good effort. And here's Gardner. He's 1 for 7 in the series. Comes in hitting at .223. Yankees hitting at .234 as a club with a 4.32 team ERA.
A little bit more speed. The Yankees pretty much known as the station-to-station ball club. Ellsbury and Brett Gardner, 1 and 2 in the order, probably their best 2 base runners.
And that's back through the middle. Get it back in the second. There you go. So runners at the corners and nobody out.
Looks like a fastball here, pretty much middle. Hits it just to the glove side of Gonzalez. Brett Lawrie shading towards second base. Yanks in business right now. First and third, nobody out.
So here's Beltran sitting on 399 home runs. He is 0 for 6 in the first 2 games. If you miss the first 2 games, Chris Sale was just awesome. As that's into left field, going to get the job done. So Melky will get it back into second base in a hurry, and it's quickly 1-0 New York.
Right now, if you're Miguel Gonzalez early on in the game, you'd almost trade a fly ball for an out right there. It's going to be awful tough first and third for Miguel to get out of this. Just stay away from that big inning early.
Do it in a heartbeat, which he did. So here's Teixeira. Beltran, as we mentioned, sitting on 399 home runs. Teixeira sitting on 397. Teixeira 2 for 8 in the first 2 games. But we mentioned Sale was outstanding in game 1, and Quintana was outstanding yesterday. Nova pitched very well, went 5 2/3. And then they brought in that 3-headed monster from the bullpen. Betances, Miller, and I'll tell you, Chapman, that's in my 50. This is my 57th year now in this game. I've never seen that. You know, a lot of people say it's easier to hit today. Well, I'll tell you what, they don't know what in the hell they're talking about.
That was
it's tougher to hit today than it's ever been in the game of baseball.
We're seeing industry-wide, American League, National League, East, Central, Western divisions, more power arms in the game of baseball. And if you can't hit velocity now, because most or all these bullpens are just stacked with guys bringing it mid to upper 90s, what we saw yesterday. Betances, 4 outs, all 4 via the strikeout. Good split finger there by Miguel. Andrew Miller was ultra impressive, and then Aroldis Chapman, several pitches yesterday, Hawk, at 102 miles an hour.
Well, that's quick. One thing about it, though, they had guys would rather try to hit that 102 than those sliders and those splitters and those moving fastballs at 97 or 98. To me, of the three, being a right-handed hitter, I'd much rather face Betances. Because those sliders from the left-handers, I mean, being a right-handed hitter, you're just not going to do anything with those things.
You know, we were talking after the game yesterday. 2 consecutive sliders that Andrew Miller threw to Jose Abreu on a 2-1 and 2-2 pitch, both for strikes, were the worst 2 swings I've seen Abreu take against a left-hander in a year and a half. It was amazing to see how good his breaking ball yesterday. That was Andrew Miller.
There he goes. There's the strike amount. Whoa, that was real close. He gone 2 down.
Take a look at it right here. Good split finger from Miguel Gonzalez. Throw right on the money. Brett Gardner does get that left hand in just below the tag. Gets a good jump. Takes one quick peek in. Hits the deck. You see the left hand get in just in front of the tag by Saladino.
If that glove is over a little more towards the pitcher's mound, he's out. Meanwhile, he's not, and he's on second. 6th stolen base for Gardner. And here's a man that's been swinging the bat, McCann. Ryan, 4 homers, 16 RBIs.
I think this lineup we're seeing this afternoon, Hawk, is what Yankee fans and what American League pitchers fear with this short porch in right field. You have Ellsbury and Gardner from the left side. You flip Beltran back to the left side to Sharon McCann. First 5 hitters in the lineup left-handed. Going to be very important that Miguel has that good split finger, and that was one of them right there to Brian McCann. If he doesn't have the feel for the split finger.
Look at this again. He just might be out.
Boy, that's awfully close.
It looked like in real time. It looked like he got him. Get foul. It will. Right size, wrong shape. McCann last year 26 homers and drove in 94 out of Athens, Georgia. Talking about Georgia, we got a lot of Braves watching in down in Kansas City this afternoon.
A.J. Pierzynski, right?
Dennis the Menace. Dennis the Menace 2. George Brett is number 1. Dennis the Menace.
It's amazing what he's still able to do. Get behind the plate and catch. He's been doing it for a long time.
He'd probably do it for at least his wife. She's the one who'll tell him when he can retire, not him. That got him. Like he got him pretty good by his body language.
Looks like a 2-seam fastball that he's trying to bring back in over the plate. Pitch that Greg Maddux brought into vogue in the late 80s, early 90s. Start that ball at the left-handed hip and try to bring it back in front door. A little bit too much inside and catches the right arm of Brian McCann.
Miguel's doesn't move as much as Mad Dog's did.
No.
Here's Castro. Off to a good start at 289, 4 homers, 14 knocked in. He's 1 for 8 in the first 2 games. Outfield slightly to the right. Big gap out there in left center. And here Yankee Stadium, 318 down the left field line, 314 down the right field line. 385 in deep right center, 399 in deep left center, and 408 straight away center.
Getting back to that guy, A.J. Pierzynski. Give him a little kudos. Picked up career hit number 2,000 earlier this year.
Well, what took him so long?
Right?
That's what Paulie told him. What took you so long? Right side. So he is going to give up the one quick run and then get out of it. And after one is 1-0 bad guys. blog at WGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich. Jeff, your local Nationwide insurance agent serving the area for over 38 years. So to join the nation, visit JeffVuk.com because Nationwide is on your side. Just tied for the league in home runs with 12. He's sitting in third place in RBIs with 32, 2 behind Robinson Cano.
You can tell by that first pitch, breaking ball from Tanaka, respecting the power of the 12 home runs of Todd Frazier. Getting back to Tanaka and the issue he's had, Hawk, with that right elbow. His velocity is down. There's a little straight changeup two-seam, 86 miles an hour. Before the elbow injury, he was 94 to 96 miles an hour, and his ball had that late life and a lot of carry to it. Right now, he's anywhere from 89 to 92 miles an hour, and he just doesn't have that extra little hop on that fastball that he needs to make that split finger devastating. There's the split finger.
It's funny how some guys can still be throwing it 92 to 94 after coming off 95, 96. And the difference to the eye of a hitter sometimes can be really almost unbelievable. They can lose that little flip at the end.
What he does do very well, if you'll watch Brian McCann's glove, he is, for the most part, he's generally around that glove area. You're very rare. There's a good pitch right there, that two-seam fastball that came back out over the outer edge of the plate. This is what Todd Frazier was looking. This might have been a little bit outside and a little bit up. Todd Frazier doesn't like that call. If Tanaka is going to get that much of a strike zone, it's going to make it awfully tough on the White Sox hitters. That was a very borderline at best.
Well, if he does,
then
then shame on Clint Fagan. We've had 2 good umpired games, the first 2. Don't want him screwing it up. So here's Cabrera. Melky, 299, a couple of homers, 13 knocked in.
Back-to-back curveballs from Tanaka. We talked about it on the open with Tanaka. His primary out pitch to lefties is going to be that hard split finger. It'll be anywhere between 84 and 88 miles an hour. Locates his fastball pretty well. There's a good two-seam fastball, 87 down in the zone, and good eye there by Melky Cabrera.
Three-0 pitch. Red Laurie on deck. Sox will conclude this game. Board the charter. Come on home. Off day tomorrow. Then Houston for 3, Kansas City for 3, and Cleveland for 3. As there's ball 4. But check that. Check it. It'll be 4 with Cleveland. That makeup double header on the 23rd.
You could see just in 5 hitters to this White Sox lineup, a different Tanaka than we saw in 2014. I think what separated him and excited the Yankees, a lot of teams, about the possibility of he being successful at the big league level, not afraid to attack the strike zone with a fastball. You could tell early on so far in this game, a little bit tentative. But instead of throwing 94 to 96 or 89 to 91, you could see why he would be that way.
Brett hitting at 274, 2 for 9 in the series, and he's also 2 for 9 against Tanaka. Well, when you were talking about Tanaka, I hadn't seen him except one time. But when I saw him earlier, when he first signed with all that money and all that pub and everything else, and you mentioned it when you were describing him, it was just how smooth he threw that fastball. It was getting up there, 96, 97.
You could make a case at the All-Star break, Hawk, his first year that he had the pinstripes on. He was 12-4 at the break with an ERA of 2.5. A lot of people in baseball thought this guy was the best starting pitcher in the American League the first 3 months of the year. A lot of people thought that the Yankees they hit a home run with this guy, and then literally 4 or 5 weeks later, He has an MRI, and that right elbow revealed a slight tear of the UCL ligament. And you just wonder how it is for him in between starts. If you're Larry Rothschild, a pitching coach, how much throwing is he able to do between starts? Does he have to try to conserve his bullets to make his starts? This is one of the few times, only the second time, that he started on a 5-day turn. They've tried to give him an extra day if they can. This start, from the start against the Royals to today against the White Sox, on a normal 5-day rotation.
Well, as a rule, you got your star high school pitchers throwing more innings in a week than major league pitchers.
That probably explains why we have so many Tommy John surgeries.
No question about it. Well, you touched on it the other day, which I thought was very, very profound as far as these youngsters. They just throw too much. It's year-round now. It's year-round with all the, the camps they have and all the traveling squads they have. It's year-round. That's just too much for youngsters to be doing. Now, during the season, fine, but not year-round.
And I think what's so different and unique about not only baseball but other sports, let's just talk about baseball, is you'll talk to 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, and not only do they figure out what sport they want to do, they've already made up their mind what position they're going to play. So you're taking a young kid now at 13 and 14. Weight training and strength and conditioning has never been better. Nutritionists. So they have the benefits of all the modern technology. And then you have coaches that are teaching 14, 15-year-old curveballs, sliders, split fingers.
They ought to be fired.
Right?
They ought to be fired.
And as an industry, we're all guilty of it. We hold the draft on MLB Network, and they'll usually have myself and Al Leiter look at 4 or 5 high school amateur pitchers and describe about the draft. And we'll hear draft gurus saying, well, his secondary pitches aren't quite good enough yet.
They say, throw down. Meanwhile, they called him, no, that's ball 4. I thought it was. It was the 3-2 count, so that's secondary. Well, getting back to that for a second, the worst thing that they can do is teach these kids. They've got an orthopedic surgeon down in Houston that all he does all summer long is give Tommy John surgeries to kids 12 to 15, 16 years old. I mean, it's crazy to let them throw in breaking balls. Their young arms are just not up to it.
And, week to 10 days before the draft, we'll get a sheet, a bio sheet, and it'll say, well, secondary pitches aren't good enough right now. You show me a kid at 18 that his secondary pitches are good enough to pitch in the big leagues, I'll definitely show you a guy that's going to have a Tommy John or a blowout within a year or two.
He's going to definitely blow it up. There's a base hit. Melky's going to score. And this game is tied at 1. Avi.
Here's a 2-seam fastball that Tanaka tries to get down and in. He gets it in, but not quite down enough, and Melky takes advantage. Brett Garner, an average thrower at best from left field, and all smiles there from Avi Garcia. We tied things up at 1.
So 2 on 1 out, and here's Alex. Alex 2 for 5 in the series with an RBI. Those things rankle you. Well, something that really rankles me, even at the professional level, is when you hear guys talk about a young, good-looking player coming into the big leagues, and they say, well, he can't handle a curveball. Name me 5 guys in the American League who can handle a curveball. This is a good pitch. Name me 5. You can't do it. It's crazy.
Well, the problem is, Hawk, it takes one guy in an organization like the White Sox were fortunate to have early on in Frank Thomas. But Frank Thomas comparables come about every 10 to 15 years.
They're generational
lucky,
players. They're generational
right?
players.
That can cover both. And what you're normally going to see, and, you know, Mike Trout has burst on the scene for the Angels. A lot of people think he's the best player in baseball. Bryce Harper with the Washington Nationals. I think he has a higher ceiling. Tremendous power. And a lot of people early on getting on Bryce Harper, you know, inconsistent, swings a little bit too much, a little bit of a free swinger. And he didn't spend a whole lot of time in the minor leagues. And so we're trying to take kids out of college that have less than a year and a half or a year in the big leagues, don't even have 500 plate appearances in the big leagues, and expected to come up here and handle big league pitching. There are very few that can do that.
You're always going to have guys that try to impress you with what they're going to try to impress you with to make you think they know everything about baseball. And I'll tell you something. Nobody knows this game. There's been some guys who've been around it longer than others. But this game is too beautiful. Abner did a pretty good job. And that's flipped and going foul.
I'm, you know, was fortunate to play for a long time, for 18 years. And I think in reality, Hawk, for a pitcher, it almost would take you 2 full seasons, and I'm not sure what it would be for a position player, to really figure out not only what the other team's trying to do to you, but what you're trying to do yourself. The biggest enemy I feel you face as a pitcher is the guy you look at in the mirror in the morning. It's convincing yourself that when that door opens and you go to the mound, that you're going to hunt hitters and not let them hunt you. And it takes a while to understand what pitches to throw at what point, so you don't make it as difficult on yourself.
I do not disagree. You know, I'm a big fan of the mirror. That mirror will tell you everything you got to know. As he gets him. So 2 down, and that'll bring up Tyler. Three strikeouts. But we had 2 good at bats by Cabrera and Laurie walking. So back-to-back walks. Then the RBI single by Avi.
I think one of the things you'll see left-handed hitters that we saw there with Alex, that split finger comes more into play, down and away movement to a lefty. I think right-handers have a little bit better chance against Tanaka.
Well, that's the case with a lot of pitchers, especially maybe the greatest reliever that ever lived. Right-handers were much more effective against it. He just ate left-handers up. He just broke their bats.
The guy known as Mo Mariano.
That's him. I used to get I used to laugh when managers would send up in 9th inning left-handed guys to hit against him. And you knew what was coming. And you knew where it was coming. And you still couldn't hit him.
Not sure what the record is for most broken bats by a pitcher against left-handed hitters.
Well, he's got it.
As a reliever.
Yeah, he's got it.
Pitching 1 inning at a time. When I was with the Blue Jays in 1998, I was in the dugout, and Carlos Delgado, everybody's like, he's going to throw the cutter. Get in, be ready for the cutter. He went through 3 bats in 1 at bat, and he knew the cutter was coming.
Know it. Oh, boy, was he something. As I said, maybe the greatest. It's hard to say anybody's the greatest. Maybe the greatest reliever ever lived. Here's a 1-2 pitch. Good check by Saladino.
Front door slider. He tries to cut this slider back in. Off the plate a couple of inches. Good take there by Todd. Not much to do. He wouldn't really be able to do much with that anyway.
Bit of gap.
Excuse me. 27th pitch of the inning coming up here from Tanaka.
But we pick up one on the RBI single by Avisaíl Garcia, and it's tied at 1. 1-1 tie here in the bottom of the second inning. Dustin Ackley. He's only had 39 at bats this year. Hitting at 128.
Well, there was at one time when Dustin Ackley was drafted out of the University of North Carolina first round by the Seattle Mariners. They thought he was going to be a fixture in that organization. A lot of people thought at that point he was the most advanced college bat in the draft. Surefire, can't miss.
I don't think I've ever seen a youngster come into the major leagues with more publicity than he had out of college.
You think it could be a case, Hawk, going from that aluminum bat to the wood bat too?
Well, you never know, but there's a good chance it could be, yes. You know, in fact, there was just a little quiz on some Yankee players on the scoreboard in between innings that they said, had you rather have an aluminum bat or 4 strikes? Only one guy said aluminum bat, the other said 4 strikes. I remember when Charlie Finley got baseball, because that's popped up. Austin Jackson, when Charlie Finley got baseball to institute a trial in spring training on a 3-ball rule. 3 balls and you take your base. And man, I'll tell you, Danny, that was like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right?
Oh, for a hitter. It didn't last long.
I might still be pitching. We could find a 2-strike league.
Here is Gregorius.
He had a couple of really good at-bats yesterday off of Jose Quintana. Hit the ball hard, wasn't trying to pull the ball. He's turned himself into a really good player.
Off the end of the bat. 2 down.
A lot of people were concerned when Derek Jeter, the captain, number 2, retired. Listen, nobody's going to fill the shoes, but Didi Gregorius struggled a little bit offensively his first season, but second half of the year and last year, he's becoming a much better player. Solid defensively with a strong arm, has range up the middle in the hole. Good young player.
We got a lot of good young players. We got more good young players than I've ever seen in baseball. Torreyes. Saladino's got him in a nice, easy, quick 1-2-3 inning for Miguel Gonzalez.
Save a list Luis Severino with a right tricep strain, 0-6, and the Yankees were expecting some big things from Severino this year. This injury report brought to you by Dr. Anthony Romero Orthopedics. If you have shoulder or elbow problems, go to RorioOrthopedics.com or call 312-432-2342.
0-1 the count. Adam Eaton leading off here in the top of the third in this 1-1 tie. Well, there may be some as good, but there are none better than our medical staff with the Chicago White Sox. They are just terrific.
Herm Schneider has been doing it for a long time too, right?
There's one guy you might say is the best because his record will prove it. He's kept more players off the DL than any other trainer in baseball. The ball hit high and deep. Stretch. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Number 2 for Adam, and the Sox lead it 2-1.
Doesn't really profile. You take a look at Spanky Adam Eaton right there. Doesn't profile as a power hitting right fielder. Gets a first pitch fastball outer third up in the zone, and look at him turn on this one right here. Kind of tomahawks this one out into the bullpen area, right over that 385 sign at the big stadium here in the Bronx.
Here's Austin, and of course with that home run by Eaton, Alex Snellius, another generous donation to White Sox charities. It's out of play.
I like what I'm seeing here so far, Hawk. There's a good look at Spanky, that long home run. Try to attack this guy, Tanaka, early in the count. Stay away. Try to stay away from that best pitch, that bread and butter, the split finger. If you can ambush him in the first or second pitch, go ahead and turn it loose.
Well, also 75 years ago today, May 15th, 1941, against our White Sox. Here in this stadium, the Yankees, Joe DiMaggio started his 56 game hitting streak.
One streak, Hawk, I just don't think is going to be beat. I know records are made to be broken.
Especially individual records of accomplishment, not time. You know, but the time is going to determine that. And I think that somebody can break it. That's always happens.
Why I don't think so, because I think relief pitching is so good today.
Well, that narrows it down.
You don't get the opportunity to face that tired starter going through a lineup for the third or fourth time. You have to go through Betances, Andrew Miller, Aroldis Chapman. You have to go through Nate Jones and David Robertson. They're hard guys to scratch hits off of.
Well, you're not wrong, but I just think that there's an. It's going to have to be. It's not going to be a power hitter. If anybody does break it, it's going to be a guy who can run. But the relief pitching is certainly as Abreu hits it sharply. Down to Reyes.
Your opinion, you've been covering the game for over 50 years at the big league level. Is that the biggest difference that you see right now? The strength of bullpens?
Sure.
It makes it tougher to hit.
You could see it coming 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you could see it coming. And it's a battle of bullpens now. It's just that simple. You got to have starters, good starters, to protect your bullpen. When I played, the mantra was you're only going to go as your starting, as far as your starting pitching will take you. Today, you're only going to go as far as your bullpen will take you. In the past, the guy asked me, one writer asked me that the other day because of DiMaggio's anniversary streak coming up. Who did I think had a chance to break it when I was playing, or since I've been in the game of baseball? And the one guy that I really thought had maybe an outside chance to do it was Robbie Alomar, because he could get you any way you wanted to be got. He could get you with a home run, he could get you with bunts, he could get you with base hits, infield hits, and he could run. And he was a great player.
An advantage there early on in his career, playing on that turf in the then Sky Dome, now the Rogers Center.
I thought that he may have an outside chance, but he didn't do it, and really didn't even come close. Todd was called out on a bad pitch back in the second inning. 75, May 15th, 1941. I still had 4 months to go before I was born.
I thought you were going to tell me that's when you hit your first home run at Little League, right?
Thanks.
You were just old enough to breathe and you were swinging for the fences, right?
You're awesome. You're awesome. All right, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That pitch right there is a pitch that Tanaka, a little short on that velocity. He needs those type of pitches, those swing pitches, 2-2 pitch, and now count leverage swings back in the favor here of Todd Frazier. Oh, look out.
Well, for a guy with good control, of course, he has walked a couple today, but you don't expect that.
Especially when you're walking around as Todd has with 5 stitches in that lower lip from trying to get that foul ball at Arlington the other night. Well, now's when you make him pay.
Well, Todd has a couple stolen bases. And here is Melky. With 1 out last inning, he walked and then came around to score on the base hit by Avi.
Little backdoor slider, first pitch from Tanaka. We've seen a different Tanaka so far this afternoon, Hawk. A little bit more tentative, not as aggressive with that fastball. It's down in velocity, 90-91 instead of the 94-95 that he had a couple of years ago. Turning into more of a try to trick him type of pitcher.
That's going to be in there for a base hit. So Gardner handles it cleanly, gets it back in on the double by Melky. Ducks on the pond, 2 down. 6th double for Cabrera.
First pitch breaking ball away. Here's a fastball, one of the few fastballs he's thrown early on in the count, and Melky Cabrera does a great job here of just hitting that where it pitch, a bullet. Brett Gardner does a good job of cutting this one off from getting down into that corner. Sox in business, 2nd and 3rd, 2 down.
Sox with more wins on the road this year than any team in Major League Baseball. 14. In a contrast, last year we won our 15th game on the road on June 30th.
Winning baseball, that's the reason White Sox are in first place.
And deservedly so.
You know, Ed,
they're catching the ball.
You're hoping during the course of the season you can play at 500 or a little bit above on the road, take care of business at U.S. Cellular Field. I'll tell you what I've been impressed with this weekend series, the patience, which I haven't seen out of Brett Lawrie. He had some really good at-bats yesterday.
Everything's contagious. When you get guys up there working the count, seeing a lot of pitches, you fall right into that category. You will fall right into it. And a lot of times it's an unsaid thing.
You take a look at him visually. I'm looking at it from a pitcher standpoint. He gets in the box. He has the mouthpiece going right there. He always seemed to me like he was an anxious guy at the plate, like squeezing the bat really, really thick, and like he was trying to initiate the contact. And an experienced pitcher would take advantage of that and, you know, tease him out of the strike zone. But he's not chasing those pitches.
Ooh, nice approach to that pitch, just underneath it.
I think the one thing that disappoints a veteran type pitcher, when you're making good pitches just off the corner, you start talking to yourself like, how can he not swing at that? That's a pitch he's supposed to offer at. And when you start approaching pitchers that way from a hitter standpoint, it makes it a lot more difficult on a guy like Tanaka.
Got him on the beat pitch, but the home run by Adam Eaton. We lead it 2-1.
The Subway third inning triple play promotion. Text Subway 3 to 97799 right now, and the 300 texter will win a $30 gift card to Subway restaurants in the Chicagoland area. Subway, fresh is what we do.
Sox on top 2-1 here in the Yankee half of the third inning. It'll be at the top of the order: Ellsbury, Gardner, and Beltran. Ellsbury had an infield single. Takes first pitch strike.
You know, he's not quite the same player. I think the Yankees a little bit disappointed. They thought the free agent they were getting from the Red Sox would hit for a little bit more power, be more of a stolen base threat. He's got a lingering hip issue that he irritated in the series against the Royals. He rolls over this first pitch right here, and good pitch there by Miguel Gonzalez. And Yankees a little bit disappointed. They haven't seen the power they thought they were going to see out of Jacoby Ellsbury, and make no bones about it, the beauty of a player like him is with his legs, and right now not able to take advantage of that speed, which is such a big part of his game.
Well, Johnny Pesky, God rest his soul, when Ellsbury first joined the Red Sox, told me, he said, "Hawk, this guy has a chance to become the greatest player to ever put a Red Sox uniform on." Here's Gardner. He singles sharply up the middle.
You know, that's I guess what could be one of the negatives when speed is such a part of your game, when you make your living off your legs like Ricky Henderson did for such a long time. When you're a guy like Jacoby Ellsbury, take example, Michael Bourne was on a good run 4 or 5 years ago, signed that big contract with the Cleveland Indians, and when you don't have the ability to steal bases, all the things now, the things that you don't do particularly well, if you're not a good thrower from the outfield, if you don't hit for much power and you don't provide much with those legs, it really sticks out how much, even for a guy like Brett Gardner, what makes him such a valuable player for the Yankees is that dimension. What you see right here, he can turn a base hit into a double. A good job there by Adam Eaton, cutting that one off from going down to the corner. But Brett Gardner, one of those guys that speed is a big part of his game. See a fastball right here on the inner third. He does a good job of barreling it up. gets it just past Brett Laurie and Jose Abreu at first base. Good job by Adam Eaton cutting that one off and keeping it to a single.
Beltran, sacrifice fly, picking up his 16th RBI.
This is when it gets tough if you're Miguel Gonzalez. And now the Thunder starts to come part of this order. Beltran to Sharon McCann, that short porch, 314 feet at right field here at the new Yankee Stadium. And this is why the Yankees over the years have stacked their lineup with either left-handed or switch-handed hitters to take advantage to put pressure on right-handed pitchers.
Two and 0 the count. So it's 3-0. Don't give him a cookie.
White Sox fans, vote now for your favorite moments and milestones from the first 25 years of U.S. Cellular Field. Head-to-head matchups run through May 19th, and the defining moment will be revealed during homecoming weekend presented by the Village of Bedford Park, May 20th to the 22nd. Visit www.whitesox.com, USCF 25 to vote today.
Here's Teixeira, struck out in the first inning. I want to give a big White Sox shout out to Art Burke on his birthday. Happy birthday, Art. Art, a terrific White Sox fan and a terrific sports writer. 1-0 the count here to Teixeira.
This is just what you don't want to do. Alex Avila came out, pitched prior to that. Really have to make a good pitch right here if you're Miguel Gonzalez, because Tex is going to be turning it loose right here. What makes him so dangerous too, Hawk, he does a very good job from the left side going out and hooking pitches on the outer third of the plate.
Well, two things you can't do against the Yankees, or really any club, but especially the Yankees in this ballpark with all that left-handed hitting, is you can't make errors and you can't walk. 3-0 the count. And that will load him up. And you got maybe the most dangerous guy in this lineup at the plate now, and Brian McCann.
The one thing you can't do right here, and I'm sure what Don Cooper is going to go out and talk, you get a look at Robin Ventura right there, is just to reiterate, this is the message. Listen, we're one pitch away. The one thing you can do with Brian McCann, he doesn't run well. You're one pitch away at ground ball getting out of this. And this is where you can't panic. If you're Miguel Gonzalez, you have to attack right away. If your best pitch is that split finger, to go ahead, whatever you feel in your repertoire is the best pitch, percentage pitch, to have McCann put this ball on the ground. He's a double play in the making if you can make one good pitch.
Well, you've been in this spot many, many times when a great hitter at the plate. So you know what you got to do and what you got to think. Takes ball one. That's a big pitch. First pitch in a sequence like this after a guy has just walked back to back is the first pitch.
Tried that first pitch hard cutter, 88 miles an hour. Not sure that's his best double play ball. Something more of the sinking variety, that split finger. If he could get this down, moving away to McCann.
High pop up. Alex got a play and makes it. What a big out. 2 down.
Boy, at a 1-0 count if you're Miguel Gonzalez. This is a nice play, too, by Alex Avila. This is one of those towering pop-ups. Does a good job of getting the mask out of the way. Had a beat on that one right from the get-go. Sunglasses still on. Had this one all the way in, and a big, big, big out right there for Miguel Gonzalez.
So here is Castro. Starling grounded out to his counterpart, Brett Lawrie.
And right now, if you're Miguel Gonzalez, this is maintain that concentration. Get the big out from McCann. A lot of times as a pitcher, your tendency is to take a deep breath and relax. Stay on the attack.
Two runs, 3 hits, no errors for our guys. 1-1, 3 hits, no errors for their guys. If you're just joining us here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Dan Plesac on loan from MLB Network. Certainly want to thank all the guys there. Rob McGlarry and Mark Iafa for letting Dan join us this weekend. Softly hit. Was able to knock it down, couldn't come up with it. So we're tied at 2. That's a Kansas City special right there.
Not much you can do. By pretty good pitch here by Gonzalez. A 2-seam fastball up and in. Ball kind of stays down on Saladino right there. You see he's expecting that upper hop, and it hits that wet dirt, and it just kind of skips down. Infield single for Castro.
Well, he wasn't going to get anybody on that anyway. As Dan Jennings starting to get loose. Here's Ackley. He went out to Austin Jackson in center field. Boy, the Royals have do that, so that's part of their arsenal. Those little duck snorts into the outfield, broken bat infield singles, soft infield singles, and they do it. I wish we could do it though more like that. One and one to count.
You can tell through this inning, Miguel kind of laboring to get through this. Was fortunate to get the pop up of Brian McCann. Last pitch to Starlin Castro, that infield single, a 2-seamer. He really can ill afford to be living up in that strike zone. We're seeing a lot of people, a lot of pitches up in the zone, and one of the reasons that Dan Jennings is warming up in the bullpen. Robin and Don Cooper seeing the same things we're seeing here, Hawk. That's a pretty good pitch right there. One of the better pitches he's thrown in this inning. Another look at it right here. Good hard slider breaking down and in. That back foot slider.
Two and two.
That was the 21st pitch of the inning. So pitch is starting to mount up. Some action in the bullpen.
Well, we got an off day tomorrow.
Not sure where that one was. Pretty good pitch.
Full count. Third walk of the inning, and they lead it 3-2.
Boy, after the 2-2 pitch, what was a really close pitch for Dustin Ackley to take. It was almost like he was sitting on something off speed. Unfortunately, Gonzalez didn't get the call, ran the count full, and that fastball right there, two-seamer, just off the plate. We're going to take another look at the 2-2 pitches. This is a real good pitch, Hawk. Might have been a shade down in the zone, but that's an awfully good pitch and a tough pitch to take.
That's one of those pitches that can go either way. It had part of the zone.
The problem is when you're around the strike zone, you'll tend to get those pitches. Miguel hasn't been around the strike zone very much here in the bottom of the third, and you're not going to get those borderline pitches called strikes.
Not when you walk two men back to back earlier in the inning. He's still got some work to do here. Gregorius grounded out softly to Laurie at second base. This foul back just below us.
'27th pitch of this inning coming up from Miguel Gonzalez. 1 ball, 2 strike count here on Didi Gregorius. That last at bat against Dustin Ackley threw a real good hard slider down and in on a 1-1 count. Might not be a bad idea. He's having a difficult time getting that split finger over. Maybe something down and in towards that back foot.
Just to get a piece of it.
That's the good split finger. And that's really been the pitch this inning in particular, Hawk, that has kind of abandoned Miguel Gonzalez. Doesn't have enough really on his fastball to be attacking that strike zone when he falls behind. But he hasn't had that real good split. That's one of the few this inning that he's had.
Get foul. Get foul. It will.
You kind of get the feeling, like I do, somehow, some way, we've got to try to get out of this inning right here.
I just,
Time to make a pitch.
it just, the walks just eat me alive.
Like to see him try to bury a hard slider down and in. That's been his best pitch this inning.
Either right underneath his hands or that slider down and in. Had him out in front. But the wildness right here really hurts Miguel Gonzalez. They pick up a pair, walk 3 in the inning, and they lead it 3-2. 3-2. As we get to go to the top of the fourth inning, here's Avi Garcia with an RBI single back in the second.
We'll see on a cool afternoon. That was a long time sitting down in that dugout for Tanaka. See if Avi might not be able to get a pitch that he likes here in the first couple of pitches.
Oh, and 1 to count. He's going to muscle one. Another little soft single. Kansas City special into left center.
See Tanaka trying to crowd him here. Two-seam fastball with a little bit of movement. 86 miles an hour. And big, strong guy like Avi able to keep his hands inside right there. As you touched on, Hawk, muscle that one over Didi Gregorius at shortstop for a leadoff single.
Here's Alex Avila. Struck out his first trip. Come on, Alex. First and 30.
He had 3 really good at bats in this first game of this series off of Luis Severino.
He did not go.
Good take on that first split finger. You can almost see the way Tanaka is approaching now after the first 2 innings. The White Sox very aggressive early on. He's going to more split fingers and off-speed pitches early. You often hear pitchers talk about pitching backwards, pitching off-speed and fastball counts. If you're going to pitch that way like Tanaka is, you're going to have to make sure you fall behind like he does to get your off-speed over 1-0. There's a bad breaking ball. Now you put yourself in a hole, 2 balls and no strikes. And Brian McCann coming out. It's funny how you see a game like this with one starting pitcher and the other. It's almost like both guys afraid to really attack the strike zone. Miguel Gonzalez doesn't have that good split finger that he normally has. Tanaka not really being aggressive with his fastball, and that might be a case where Brian McCann, you just have to go out there and say, hey, listen, I can't help you if you can't help me. Give me something to work with here.
Well, they're both tentative. There's no question about that. And that hitter gets those vibes too. That ball's off the plate, called a strike.
Take a look at it on the Xfinity Pix Tracks. The yellow dot is the last pitch, the third pitch in that sequence. Good 3-4 inches off the plate. There's the good split finger. Hawk, that's what makes the split finger so good. Now the pitch before that, now you have to expand the plate. If you're Alex, you get a 2-0 pitch, you're sitting in a good spot. You have a call go against you. Now you have to expand that strike zone a little bit. And that was one of the better split fingers that Tanaka's thrown this afternoon, followed by a 92-mile-an-hour fastball to get him into that count.
Well, Fagan has had a very, very weak game so far behind that plate. We had first 2 games solid umpiring. Today he has been so far weak. There he goes. So he is safe.
Look at it right here. Little cut fastball in. Brian McCann does a good job, really, just to get this and get a catch and throw off. We're talking about all the shifting that goes on. That second baseman, Ronald Torreyes, who's playing normally at shortstop with all this shifting that goes on today in baseball.
Well, he's at third base now.
Right.
So Avi picks up his first stolen base. Now pick him up.
Oh. And he asked for help. See this pitch clearly. A couple inches off.
Got from up here, real time, I thought he went. So here's Tyler. Saladino struck out his first trip. That's 7 strikeouts now for Tanaka.
It's another first pitch split finger. Trying it.
Yeah, the big pitch in that sequence was one Fagan missed. That changed the whole dynamic of that at bat.
We were talking before the game, Hawk, I don't get a chance to watch the White Sox every day. Boy, the more you watch Tyler Saladino play, the more he grows on you.
He's a good player. He is, and he's going to be around a long time. He knows how to play. He's the smarter players we have on our team. And that ball hit hard right in front of Ellsbury, who's going to go to third base. So now, first and third, 1 out.
What? This is the guy you want to have up. Let's go back to the third inning. Our Ford drive of the game. Adam Eaton takes this Tanaka pitch and puts it over the 385 sign into the Yankee bullpen. That's our Ford drive, and he's getting rocked to sleep there.
Adam now 5 for 10 in this series. So indeed, he is the man that you wanted to play.
And in case you're thinking about a fly ball, this Yankee outfield, not particularly a good throwing outfield.
Now they have to go to first, and they get him. But this game is tied at 3 on a beautiful
little safety squeeze
safety
right there.
Is exactly what it was.
Good read there by Aviseo Garcia. Adam Eaton. I think one of the keys you have to do is get this ball and push it past Tanaka. Make Mark Teixeira feel that does a great job of that, and a really good read by Avi Garcia down the third baseline. See that pitch up and away, and he just kind of takes it with him down the first baseline. Good execution on both parts. Very unselfish, and second run batted in on the day for Adam Eaton.
Don't stop now, boys, as here is Jackson. He's 0 for 2 with a couple of strikeouts. Yeah, Adam now with 12 RBIs.
Getting back to the Yankee outfield as far as throwing, I think you'll see Joe McEwing on a ball that, if it does get through the infield here, Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, and Dustin Ackley, none of the three really strong, accurate throwers. I think you'll see Joe McEwing go ahead and roll the dice and try to send Saladino home.
Oh, and 2 the count. Three, 5-0 for our guys. 3-4-0 for their guys. Here in the top of the 4th inning. This guy has got to be tough to catch.
Well, You know what it is too, Hawk? It's a lot of late movement and it's a lot of dancing around the strike zone. And he's not the same pitcher.
He's all over the place.
That we've seen prior to having the injury to that right elbow. Much more tentative. Really pitches away from using his fastball. A lot of split fingers, a lot of cut fastballs.
Gann just knocks it down.
I know you're one of the statistics that gets under your skin most is pitch counts, but you take a guy that's supposed to be your ace. We're here in the top of the 4th inning. You take a look at the graphic on the upper left portion of your screen. 78 pitches right now, approaching 80 pitches to try to get through 4 innings. See,
and a lot of them under duress. That softly hit to center field. It's going to fall.
He cannot throw.
Oh, he's not going to get him. And he makes a real bad throw there, missing the cutoff man, allowing Austin to go into second. We'll take it, and we lead at 4-3.
Great job there by Joe McEwing. I know with 2 outs on contact, you're going to be sending Saladino, who runs very well. Really good here. This is what scouting will do. Off the end of the bat from Austin Jackson. Joe McEwing aware that Jacoby Ellsbury doesn't throw particularly well. This throw not only high but way off to the left side of the mound and allowing Austin Jackson to go from first to second base.
Well, that's the thing to set that up, the whole thing. If you're not going to have a good strong throwing arm and you don't have a decent shot at the guy, you better hit the cutoff man or just get it into second. One of the two.
You know what's becoming a lost art, you see teams less and less. Very rarely do you see teams take much infield and outfield. And you look across baseball right now, it's not just the Yankees. There are very few teams that have good, strong throwing outfielders. And one of the things you touched on, Hawk, if you're not blessed with a good arm, at least get the ball down on a line to make it difficult for a guy like Austin Jackson to read where that throw's coming. And that kind of that water balloon, soft looping throw from Jacoby Ellsbury just makes it real easy.
Oh, he just missed that one, and he knows it. Gregorius at short makes the catch, but some damage is done. We pick up a pair. We'll go to the bottom of the 4th, leading 4-3. White Sox checking and an official White Sox debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. So go to www.wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Member FDIC. Good guys on top 4-3 here. 4-6-0 for our Sox. 3-4-0 for their Yankees. Here's Ronald Torreyes.
First two games we've touched on a couple of times, that shutdown inning. Right here you get the bottom part of the order, and Torreyes not known much for his offense. This is a guy right now, if you're Miguel Gonzalez, have to be on the attack right now. Stop this Yankee lineup from rolling over. You get into Jacoby Ellsbury, Gardner, then the Thunder, 3, 4, 5 of this order.
Well, what I like about the top of this inning is that they made a couple of mistakes and we took advantage of them. Torreyes, McCann had the ball down there to beat Avi. There's no question about that. Torreyes tried to put the tag on him too quick, could not make the catch, so he's safe. Finally, he comes around to score, and then a terrible throw by Ellsbury as that's down to Frazier, and one out.
Hey, White Sox fan, join us as we welcome back the White Sox break on homecoming weekend. Friday, May 20th to Sunday, May 22nd, when the White Sox battle the Royals. Homecoming weekend is presented by the Village of Bedford Park. Bring your business home to Bedford Park and win big. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com.
Here's Ellsbury. Had a soft infield single and scored a run in the first inning. And then he grounded out softly to Abreu.
You try to look over as a pitcher and try to dissect the lineup. You're able to get Torres out. Really have to be aggressive here with Ellsbury and Gardner. I know there was a home run threat from Ellsbury, but you really try to make good pitches and get outs here to stay away from. We start getting into the Beltran, Teixeira, McCann, the Thunder part of this Yankees lineup. And as we saw with Torreyes falling behind, ball one, ball two, making it awful difficult. Action again in the White Sox bullpen. You touched on it, Hawk, with a day off tomorrow on Monday. I'm not sure how much longer Robin and Don Cooper are going to continue to watch this. Fight back, you scratch, get a couple of runs here in the top of the fourth to take the lead 4-3. Might be one of those days. Go ahead and empty out that bullpen, get Nate Jones and David Robertson involved.
Well, when you pitch in 2-0-3-1, it's just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time before they get you.
It is frustrating if you're Robin and you're watching this. You see ball one, ball two to Torreyes, and then 2-0. He throws a fastball in. He gets the ground ball to Todd Frazier to get the first out of the inning. About initiating contact early on in the count, and Miguel's been kind of fortunate to only give up 3 runs here going into the bottom of the fourth. He's been real tentative around the strike zone.
I've always believed that another way to frame it is I've always been a believer of pitchers' body language. Some of them are seeing, most of them you can read, and you know just about how they're feeling that day. You know if they're feeling aggressive, you know if they're in between, or you know if they're timid.
That's a pitch right there that unfortunately Gonzalez hasn't gotten a couple close pitches.
Fagan hadn't given us a pitch. He hadn't given us a pitch all day.
That's a pitch that Tanaka was able to get on a pitch to Alex Avila, and it lasted bat off the plate, a couple inches away.
He's given Tanaka a few pitches. He hadn't given us one.
Well, they're not always going to be easy. If you're Miguel Gonzalez, it is what it is. You try to figure out what you can do to attack the strike zone. He's been really under duress since the first inning. Had a quick 6-pitch inning in the second, but other than that, it's been work, work, work.
All right, 2 out. There were 2 parks in the American League. Of course, when I played, there were only 16 teams. But there were 2 parks in the American League that when you came into Yankee Stadium as a rule, unless you know the umpires, you knew all the umpires in the American League because there was no crossing back and forth. And sometimes you'd get a crew, and we would say in the pregame meeting before the first game, all right, guys, do not let these umpires beat us. Do not, and by that I mean if you're a pitcher, you can't worry about the umpire. You got to go right at them. And in fact, the better the hitting team, the more you got to get after them anyway and pitch inside. And then don't let the umpire beat you at the plate. The other park was Fenway Park. Cal Hubbard was the umpire in chief. He was a big Red Sox fan. He used to come to all the games, sit right behind home plate. So it was good for us.
It's kind of been the theme of the outing once again. First hitter of the inning, Torreyes, ball one, ball two. Jacoby Ellsbury, ball one, ball two. Ball one, ball two here to Brett Gardner. He's been fortunate to be able to pour a fastball in and get strike one, get back into the count. See if he's able to do it again for the third time, trying to go in with a fastball.
Three and 0. Yeah,
not the kind of guy right here. See, this is, I guess it's different philosophies, but you've got a guy on deck now and Carlos Beltran. We have 2 outs and almost pitching Brett Gardner like he's a 40 home run, 125 RBI guy. I mean, there are certain guys in the lineup you just say, listen, you're going to have to get on.
So that's the 4th walk. He walked 3 last inning. Beltran, as we mentioned earlier, sitting on 399 home runs.
Well, let's hope he gets it when we leave town. How's that? Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes, it does. He can get it against Arizona.
Pretty good numbers for Carlos Beltran. Take a look. Not bad, right? 280 career batting average, 399 runs batted in, almost 1,500 RBIs. Pretty solid year.
One time he was as good as any player in this league.
Remember, he parlayed a terrific postseason with the Houston Astros into a big contract from the New York Mets. There's another really good pitch. I know Miguel has been all over the strike zone, but boy, he has not gotten the benefit of the doubt. And this is another really close pitch. Might be a little bit down in the zone, but
1-1 to count.
That's probably the best split finger we've seen so far through 3+ innings in here to the bottom of the 4th. That's the pitch that he really needs to be effective.
Well, this is the major leagues. You got to get more than a fastball over the plate.
See if he can repeat it, come back and make 2 consecutive good pitches in a row. Going back to the same pitch, that power split finger.
There he goes.
And a good read there by Brett Gardner. You're going to steal a base. Not only one of the keys is knowing the times of the pitcher, but had a pretty good chance that something off speed coming from Miguel Gonzalez picked the right pitch to go on. Impossible pitch for Alex to try to block that and try to make a play at second base. Second stolen base, second of the day for Brett Gardner.
7th on the season. He's 7 for 8. And a full count.
Mark Teixeira on deck from the left side, much more of a power threat. This may be the last pitch we may see of Miguel Gonzalez. Big pitch with the base open. Last thing you want to do here, Hawk, is just go ahead and guide one in. This is time to make one of those tough pitches.
Whatever it's going to be, you got to throw with conviction. And he gets out of it. We're into the 5th, leading 4-3. Robin Ventura. Log on to WGNTV.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone. That's the banner for the latest stats and information. So the Sox Game Zone is powered by Dodd Camera, family owned for 125 years, handling all your photographic needs. So Dodd Camera, where the focus is on you. Todd Frazier has struck out and he has walked.
Kind of been the theme of this Sunday afternoon getaway day. Ball one, ball two. Both Miguel Gonzalez and Masahiro Tanaka very tentative in attacking the strike zone early. Both very fortunate. For Miguel, only giving up 3 runs, and Tanaka 4. As much trouble as both of these guys have been in. We're going to top of the 5th, and next pitch for Tanaka will be his 84th pitch. Going to take a look at the pitches by innings. 13 pitches. You take a look at the second and the third inning. 27 and 22 pitches for Tanaka to get through the second and third inning.
Let me tell you something. Clint Fagan's bailed him out a couple of times.
That last pitch right there, 2-1 pitch.
He has
up and
bailed
in.
him out. Oh, he got a cookie there and missed it. Got a cookie and missed it. Count hangs at 2-2.
Another look at it right here. A little hanging slider, one of those cement mixer ones, and the Todd father right on that one. That's one right there. You can almost see that little frown after that swing, like that was the one I missed.
And there's
bullet.
That a boy. You're not going to be able to make the play, so it'll be a base hit. But that when a guy almost hits you on a 3-2 count, that's what you go to the plate with. The idea to knock him off that mound, and boy, he came close to doing it.
Go back to that last at bat. Remember that fastball that was up and in. He tries to sneak a fastball right here. Duck. Nice play by Starlin Castro to knock this down. A little juggle action right here. Look out. Bullet right back up the middle.
I guarantee you Todd wasn't yelling, look out.
No.
So here's Cabrera. Melky with a walk. He scored also in the second, and then he doubled in the third.
Kirby Yates up in the bullpen. This has the makings, Hawk, of being one of those battle of the bullpen type of days. Both starting pitchers. Tanaka for the Yanks. Gonzalez for the White Sox having difficult times getting through these lineups.
That pitch at 83 had him out in front. 0-2 the count to Melky. First and third, Melky. Good 2-strike hitter, buddy.
I'm not sure if we should call that as we caught a break, but that's a pitch that Tanaka has gotten 3 or 4 times during this game so far. You can see the third pitch on the Xfinity pitch tracks. Definitely off. It's the yellow number ball 3. Definitely off the corner.
Almost a blueprint. So 2-2.
You can see the reaction, kind of the shrug of the shoulders from Tanaka right there. He's gotten that pitch 4 or 5 times before this at bat to Melky Cabrera. He's kind of expecting that pitch, and now he's going to have to bring that ball back in over the plate, which should feed right in the hands of the milkman. Stays out there. Another good pitch. And that's one of the things, if you're Melky Cabrera, you have to fight off some of these good pitches. And that was a real good 2-strike pitch, 2 balls and 2 strikes. We'll take another look at it right here. 85-mile-an-hour 2-seam fastball down and away.
Pop some dirt up to Brian McCann's face. When you stick Alex Rodriguez back in this lineup, he's on the DL now with a strained right hamstring. I'll tell you, these guys can hit. They can hit. They are dangerous, is a better way to put it. Melky?
I think what sticks out today, Hawk, we've talked a lot about both starting pitchers being so tentative. And it really sticks out when you have a performance like Chris Sale on Friday night, ultra aggressive. Jose Quintana yesterday, 7 solid innings, gave up 2 runs. 2 guys not afraid to fill in the strike zone. Miguel Gonzalez, the guy you're looking at right there. I understand he doesn't have the stuff of Sale or Quintana, but he's been very timid about trying to attack the strike zone.
And they get tied at second.
It's a pretty good play there by Tanaka to go ahead and try to cut that lead run down. See this 2-seam fastball off right here. The safe thing for Tanaka would have been to just go ahead and put it in your pocket and go ahead and get that play at first base, but a good job right here. Does a good job, that little crow hop, and a good feed to Didi Gregorius. Aggressive play and a good play.
So here's Brett. He has walked and he has struck out.
Had a real good at last bat too, Hockey. Talked about the walk and the strikeout. Struck out on a real tough 3-2 pitch.
Yeah, it was
one of the
pitch.
Better sliders that Tanaka's thrown this afternoon. I've been, say it again, very impressed with Lowry. Plate discipline, much better than what I can recall him in the past.
Pops that one up. Long way to go, everybody. Ackley is there, makes the catch for out number 2.
Build a career in sports, in the sports industry, at the White Sox Sports and Marketing Career Fair on Friday, May 20th. Be there for 2 hours of networking with representatives from top sports organizations and stay to watch the game. Admission includes both the fair and a game ticket. To purchase, visit whitesox.com/job.
So here's Avi. Avi 2 for 2 with an RBI. A run scored and a stolen base. There's a shot. Fair ball down into the corner. Gardner gets a good bounce for him. He's going to handle it cleanly and get it back in. 2 good plays made by Gardner out in left field. Meanwhile, Avi 3 for 3, picks up his 5th double.
Tanaka tries to sneak a fastball again. This is the second at bat in a row he's tried to go in. Really good bat speed here from Garcia. And as you touched on, Hawk, nice play to play that carom by Brett Gardner. Does a good job getting it into Didi Gregorius. You know, this broadcasting thing doesn't work for you. You have a chance to be the bad scout. Friday, you told me Avisail Garcia, he's starting to turn it around.
As I said, he's the most talented player on this club. And he's still young, still a baby. And he's got a chance to be something. Here is Avila. 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. All we need now is a little. Not a big bomb, just a little duck snort.
What I liked about the last at bat, he had a check swing go against him on a 3-ball 2-strike count. He's seen a handful of pitches from Tanaka. You'd have to think through a couple of at bats. He's seen 10, 11 pitches. If he gets a pitch he likes, he might be able to square one up here.
Well, the more you see, the more dangerous you become in most cases.
Good eye. The sequence in that last at bat, there were a couple of pitches that Tanaka was able to get those called strikes, and one of those pitches was on Alex in that 4th inning. That was the 100th pitch for Masahiro Tanaka with 2 outs here in the 5th.
Just pulled off that one. That was a good pitch to hit.
You can see Tanaka, that little shake of the head. I think that pitch was intended to be a little bit more in and down, able to get away with a mistake.
He knows he got away with one.
Maybe he'll bounce one of these split fingers and pick up a cheap run on a wild pitch.
You'll be on your toes, Melky, at third. That's into right field, but it's playable. Ackley is the infielder, makes that one look a little harder than it really was. Meanwhile, halfway home, we lead at 4-3. The Curious Bank.
Big inning to get through right here, Hawk.
Yeah, this is
3-4-5. Beltran, Teixeira, McCann.
Three dangerous guys.
Hasn't been easy so far for Miguel Gonzalez. He's kind of danced through trouble in and out through 4 innings. Bullpen up for the White Sox.
Teixeira struck out and walked. That's the only strikeout recorded by Miguel thus far.
See Jennings up for the 3rd time. Normally you'd have to think that that would mean he's going to be in play. I would assume that Miguel is on a short leash right now. Anybody gets on, I think you're going to see Robin go ahead and go to that bullpen, not take a chance. You have Brian McCann on deck. You have Mark Teixeira and then Brian McCann on deck.
Out in front, even accounted 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, nobody out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. If you're just tuning in, Yankees scored 1 in the 1st. We tied it with 1 in the 2nd. Took the lead with 1 in the 3rd. They came back to take the lead 3-2 in the bottom of the 3rd, and then we scored 2 in the 4th, and that's the way it stands, 4-3. High. Melky, long way to go, but he's going to get there.
Join the Chicago White Sox for Weather Day presented by WGN TV on May 25th at U.S. Cellular Field. WGN TV meteorologist Tom Skilling will host a special on-field program focused on weather, which will include weather experiments and a video presentation. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/WGN.
Here's Brian McCann. He was hit by a pitch, and then he fouled out to his counterpart, Alex Avila. 26 homers and 94 knocked in last year. And the count 0-2.
Take a look at Miguel Gonzalez pitches by inning. Really, with the exception of the 2nd inning, a 7-pitch inning, he's been in trouble and labored, but so far in the 5th, rewarding the patience of Robin Ventura and pitching coach Don Cooper.
That's softly into left field, and that's going to fall. So the 1-out single.
Pretty good pitch here by Miguel Gonzalez. Little backdoor curveball well off the plate, as you can see on the pitch tracks. McCann fooled and just kind of one-arms it. Big, strong guy with Melky Cabrera shaded more towards left center field. Perfectly placed little flare off the end of the bat. You see in Coop's right hand there, you see that has the pitch count going. 81 pitches. He's taking a look at that, engaging what he sees. Likes the matchup here with Gonzalez against Starlin Castro.
Castro is grounded to second. And had a little infield single to drive in a run.
I'm not sure if Don Cooper may have had a little chat with Miguel between innings, because this inning is about the best he's looked attacking the strike zone. That last fastball, the best one he's thrown all afternoon. First pitch, 92, right by Starlin Castro. Another good fastball at 92.
And the count 0-2.
See Coop there right now, scratching the back of his neck. This is a tough one as a pitching coach, because you're trying to gauge, or you'd like to get a guy win. You realize you have an off day tomorrow. You have a bullpen that's rested and ready. You have Jennings up for the 3rd time.
Ball gets away.
Sure that will be, and it is. Scored a wild pitch. 0-2 split finger from Miguel there. Overthrew it, kind of spiked it into the ground. Was able to get 2 fastballs, back-to-back 92-mile-an-hour fastballs, one up, one down to Starlin Castro. Kind of overthrew that splitter right there into the dirt.
One out. And the tying run is second. The 1-2 pitch. High pop up right side. Laurie. 2 down.
Another good pitch. Well, this to me, it speaks volumes for Robin and Don Cooper. It'd be awful easy right now to go ahead and make the move. You've had Jennings up 3 times. You have a righty up and Dustin Ackley and Robin rolling the dice. And this is a situation where you really can't panic if you're Gonzalez. You do have a base open. One thing you do have in your favor, Brian McCann at second base doesn't run all that well. The Sox outfield with Melky Cabrera, Austin Jackson, and Adam Eaton, very good and accurate throwers.
Yeah, but the guy on deck is a better hitter than the guy at the plate. Ackley has gone out to center and walked. That was with the bases loaded. They scored twice in the third, as Miguel had 3 walks in that inning. Just flips that little.
Almost like a straight changeup right there.
74. If you think about it, that's one of the few call strikes that he's had today.
Well, you know what, Hawk, and it's easy when you're sitting here and looking at the game from a pitcher, but if you're Dustin Ackley, you get a 2-ball, no strike count, and you get one out or third fastball, and like you're not even ready to hit.
Well, maybe that's one reason he was hitting 128. Coming in.
Base open, Rao. 3-ball, 1-strike count. Another lefty, Gregorius on deck if you're Miguel Gonzalez.
I don't think he'll
Time
face,
to make a really good pitch right here.
If he walks him, I don't think he's going to face Didi. And it's a full count.
Quality pitch right there. That's one of the better pitches he's thrown this afternoon. You take a look at Gregorius on deck. I'm sure Miguel knows if he loses this hitter, it's probably going to be his afternoon with Jennings warming up in the bullpen. If he can muster up one more quality pitch, this is the time to do it.
So the 5th walk issued, and here comes Robin. He gave him his chance.
That really left Robin with no choice. You know, the inning started out looking so promising, gets to share off quickly. A good pitch to McCann. Good sequence to Starlin Castro, and kind of danced around the strike zone. And I'm sure Robin would love to have given him a chance to get the win, but it's time to go to the bullpen.
All right. He struggled this afternoon, but he's going to leave with the lead, but the 2 runners aboard his responsibility, and we'll be back. Here in the bottom of the 5th inning. He's got Gregorius at the plate, who is 0 for 2 twice. He has grounded out to Brett Laurie at second. That guy's on top 4-3.
Robin and Don Cooper gave Miguel Gonzalez every chance to try to get through this 5th inning. Didi had a couple of really good at-bats yesterday off Jose Quintana, so your Dan Jennings, not an easy task. First pitch, breaking ball in for strike 1. Good pitch.
Gap out there in right center field. Laurie back on the grass at second.
Like the change of speeds. First pitch from Dan, little slow slurve, gets it over. That one a little harder, more of a true slider. We touch on it. McCann at second, Ackley at first. McCann not that all blessed with speed running wise. You'd have to think on a base hit, White Sox would have a shot to try to cut Brian down at home plate.
Foul down off his body, and the count 1-2. Well, if it's a shot in right field, they're not going to even try it.
See trying to buy a little bit of time there for Didi. Regroup, get back into the box. Big pitch here coming from Dan Jennings. Lots of wiggle room. Couple of pitches to work with here. Take a couple of chances with that big breaking ball down and away. Whatever it is, just make sure it's down.
Two on, two out, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, this is the pitch. Want to make it happen. Want to stay away from that 3-ball, 2-strike count. Will enable McCann and Ackley to be moving on a 3-2 pitch. Want to make it happen right here if you're Dan Jennings.
Pops him up.
Good pitch.
Had him way out in front. And that'll retire the side. So we get out of another jam. They have stranded 8 men in this game, and we lead it 4-3.
The bullpen, Joe Girardi, Masahiro Tanaka, 5 innings. Kirby Yates worked a scoreless inning in Friday night's game in which Chris Sale was so dominant. White Sox 7-1 winner in game 1 of the series. See a fine ERA at 2.03. 8 walks, 16 strikeouts in 13 1/3. Time to add on, Hawk. We need a couple of extra runs.
That's a great concept. You know, Danny, great concept. 18 years this man pitched, and boy, what a pitcher he was. Wow, 3-time All-Star. Dan Plesac. Boy, and I've really enjoyed the last 3 days.
It's been a lot of fun.
What a great job you've done.
Been a lot of fun.
So here is Saladino. There's a shot base hit. He's now 2 for 3. And a good way to start it. Mr. Plesac's recommendation.
How about Adam Eaton, right? More than one way to drive in a run. This is our Xfinity Speed Replay, brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity One will change the way you experience TV. Little safety squeeze, run batted in, and a heads-up piece of base running by Avisail Garcia.
So here is Adam Eaton, that homer, that long home run back in the 3rd inning. Tied, or put us at a 3-2 score.
I'll tell you what I've been impressed with. All 3 games of this series. White Sox hitters, patient at the plate, made Tanaka bring the ball in the strike zone. Game 1, Luis Severino turned him into a 1-pitch pitcher, laid off the off speed. It's been very impressive to watch.
Well, that's one of the things you just touched on that's not talked about enough. I've talked and had the privilege and the honor of playing against some great hitters and talking a lot of hitting with them. And to a man, they all, before that game, visualize that pitcher, if they know him, the stuff he's got, and try to eliminate in their own mind one of his pitches. And they would do that by moving around in the box or just the way they approach the pitch. If he was a 4-pitch pitcher, they'd try to make him a 3-pitch pitcher. If he's a 3-pitch pitcher, try to make him a 2-pitch pitcher. And you're not going to eliminate 1-pitch pitchers.
And really the philosophy, you take a look at Brett Laurie, really been impressed with his at-bats in this series. And Ivan Nova was good yesterday. Good sinking fastball. It was only his 2nd start of the year. He was in competition with CC Sabathia to win the 5th spot and the big contract that CC had. Sometimes you have to get credit. Nova was good. They turned it over to that bullpen, Betances, Miller, and Chapman.
That's the first time that's happened all year. There he goes. There's the throw. It's high. Good effort by Gregorius trying to put the tag on him.
It's almost, you see Gregorius, he's looking into the Yankee dugout like they want to challenge this. May have thought he caught the back foot of Saladino when he went in with that head first slide. We're going to take a look at it right here. A good jump and a really good throw, quick throw off the mark. Not sure if Didi was able to get that left foot of Tyler Saladino.
Well, they're going to try it because Joe has had them go check out the film real quick.
Yep, getting another good look at it right here. You see the catch. From that angle, it certainly doesn't appear like he was able to get the foot.
Well, it has to be conclusive.
You know, I struggle with this, Hawk, whether the replay is good or bad. It's hard to tell from that angle, from that center field camera shot, if he was able to clip that right heel of Tyler. From that view, it looks like he may have gotten the back heel, but did the foot, did the hand get to the bag? This is a tough one right here.
Well, from two angles, it looks like he did not get him, and from one, it looks like he got him. Well, this review, it's got to be refined. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think Joe Torre and again John Schultz will get this thing resolved. And they say they got it. So Tyler got himself out right there by going in and kicking up that leg. So a good tag right there by Gregorius. Beautiful play by him.
One last look at it. You can see right here, right on the back, right heel, right before Tyler is able to get that left hand in on the bag by the slimmest of margins.
It's off the end of the bat. And out number 2.
Amazing how that can change the complexion of an inning, right? You have that ground ball with a man on second, nobody out. You're in business. Ground ball, get him over. Men on third with 1 out. But it is what it is.
And here is Jackson. He's had a big hit. RBI single in the 4th inning. Four 9-0 for us, 3-5-0 for them. Interesting note here on Kirby Yates. It's hard to believe. He is the 2nd player in Major League history with the given first name of Kirby. Joining, of course, Kirby Puckett. It's hard to believe. Oh, thousands of players. Oh, he got a good pitch to hit right there. Couldn't do anything with it.
In all my years, I thought the late great Kirby Puckett, Hawk, was the best bad ball hitter I had ever seen. There wasn't a pitch up, down, in, or out that he couldn't get the barrel to it.
There's 2 of them that I've seen, and I played against one of them. And they're about the same size, Yogi Berra and Kirby Puckett. From the tip of the nose to the tip of the toes. As he gets him, and that'll retire the side, so he gets the leadoff man aboard, and a beautiful play by Didi Gregorius. Meanwhile, we still lead it 4-3. Yankee half of the 6th inning. 4 runs, 9 hits, no errors for us. 3 runs, 5 hits, no errors for them. In the rubber match of this 3-game set. We won opener 7-1, then they won last night 2-1.
Big sequence of hitters coming up for Dan Jennings. You have 9, 1, and 2. Torreyes. You have Jacoby Ellsbury on deck, followed by Gardner. Robin trying to get a little bit of length if he can get Torreyes out here to take advantage of the lefty-lefty matchup with Ellsbury and Gardner coming up beyond Torreyes. Big first out.
Torreyes is grounded to short and he's grounded to third.
Another lefty warming up for the White Sox, Zach Duke. Just in case Robin would like to use a different left-on-left matchup. In a perfect world, if he could get through this inning with Dan Jennings and save Zach for the 7th if need be.
And we got another left-hander now down there as well. Matt Purke, P-U-R-K-E. Called up from Charlotte prior to Friday's game. Left-handers against him were 1 for 9 down in Charlotte. All right, good comeback from the 2-0 count.
Check in during our visit to U.S. Cellular Field using MLB.com Ballpark, the official U.S. Cellular Field app for your iPhone and Android smartphone. Perfectly complements with your trip to the ballpark. Maps, concession stands, and guides. Check-in prizes and more. Download MLB.com Ballpark today or visit WhiteSox.com/ballpark app.
So here's Ellsbury. Had a little soft infield single. He's 1 for 3 with a run scored.
Really good first pitch there by Dan Jennings. You know, as we watched yesterday, the Yankee version with Betances and Miller to Chapman. Kind of a race right now to try to get that ball as quick as you can to Nate Jones, David Robertson. Somehow piece things together here for the next couple of innings. Dan Jennings, Zach Duke warming up in the bullpen. Yankees with some action. Connor Mulley warming up, right-hander. Turning into what usually happens on these rubber games, Hawk, a battle of the bullpens.
One and one to count. Big pitch. And he made it.
Quality pitch.
Yeah.
89 miles an hour. Little cutting action from Dan Jennings. What I do like, we start getting to that meat of the order. Beltran and Teixeira. Now we have to get a chance to flip them around to the right side, which I think is always advantageous. Both much more dangerous with this short porch hitting left-handed. Another good pitch.
And he missed him, so that'll be an error. So pull him off the bag.
Good little breaking ball down and in. Brett Lawrie does a good job getting to it. Throw a little bit up the line. You see Jose not able to keep his foot on the bag. That, fortunately, that could be a very dangerous play. Sometimes you'll see a first baseman where that throw takes a guy into a runner. You've seen some really serious injuries with right-handed first baseman with that runner coming in and that throw taking him into that first base line. A good job there by Jose, at least to get leather on it, keep it from going into that Yankee dugout.
So that's an error. Fourth error on Brett. First one for the club since April 30th. And here it is, May 15th. That's what we're talking about. They catch the ball.
good pitch. If you're Dan Jennings, Fagan strike zone, really generous. Tanaka was able to take advantage of it. A couple of pitches, last couple of hitters to Jacoby Ellsbury. That first pitch right there to Brett Gardner, borderline. Call goes, benefited Dan Jennings' way.
That's perfect on the afternoon. 2 for 2, 2 singles, a walk, 2 stolen bases, and a run scored. Ellsbury, he's 9 for 12 in stolen bases.
Hawk, he's been dealing with the right hip issue. Came out of a game earlier in the week against the Royals. I'm not sure he's 100%. He's always a threat to steal a bag. But if Jennings can give Alex a chance to catch and throw right here, I think he'd have a pretty good shot at gunning Jacoby Ellsbury down.
He's just got a short lead. So that's out of play, and the count moves to 0-2. Oh, we have a moment. Big White Sox shout out to Big Sox fans looking in. Evelyn Powell and her son, Jason Boggs there in Aurora. And also Jennifer Bialek in Addison. Big gap out there in right center. One and two.
I think one of the you talk about all the different ways to slow down the running game, stop and hold the ball, but I think the biggest thing for any pitcher, if you get ahead in the count 0-1, 0-2. Now if you're George Girardi, you always have to worry, is Robin the threat of a pitch out? I think the best defense of the running game, get ahead, strike one.
That was a good job by Gardner right there. He almost got that one fair ground. This is a tough pitch.
Real good pitch right here. This is one of the better breaking balls from Dan Jennings. 84, good slider. We've seen Gardner. It almost seems, Hawk, to me like he has a little bit more trouble if Dan could take a little bit off that breaking ball where he really gets out in front and rolls it.
If he would take a foot off this one, he'd get it.
Well, similar to last inning, the Yankees had first and second, 2 outs. Want to make it happen right here if you're Dan Jennings. This count does go to 3-2. Jacoby Ellsbury will be off and running. Want to make it happen right here, 2-2. Action pitch.
That's a fair ball. He'll put it on him. So 2 down. With Ellsbury, the tying run is second. And here comes Robin. All right, Jennings did a good job. Only allowed 1 base runner. That was, he didn't allow it. It was on an arrow. He'll depart. Hitting in a third, and we'll be back.
Robin Ventura bringing on left-hander Zach Duke. Worked a 1-2-3 eighth inning yesterday. Jacoby Ellsbury at second, base open. I like this though, turning Carlos Beltran and the on-deck hitter Mark Teixeira, getting him from that left side back to that right side. Now listen, Beltran sitting on 399 career home runs. But I think he is much more of a threat from the left side than the right side. I like this move by Robin Ventura.
Gap out there. Here's where you wanted a little more experience out there, don't you, Danny?
Well, on the year, you're taking a look at the splits, Hawk. Righty's only hitting .211 off of Zach Duke, 4 for 19, so you're playing the percentages.
Sure.
Even though you take out one lefty to bring out the other. I agree with you. You go with an experienced left-hander and a left-hander that deals a little bit better with right-handed hitters.
Hard to beat that experience in tight ball games.
Well, the big fella, we saw him yesterday, 68 Betances. That's just in case Beltran runs into one here and they're able to get the lead. But let's keep him out of this one.
Good pitch. The 2-2. Yanks that one foul.
Good pitch there by Zach Duke. In attack mode with a fastball, little 89-mile-an-hour cut fastball in. Beltran kind of surrounds that one. I like that pitch. It's in enough to where the only thing he can do with it, if he barrels it up, is pull it foul. You think if he's that much ahead, Zach could come up with that breaking ball or something, change up down and away, have him out front.
And there is number 400. And they lead it 5-4.
Well, as you touched on, Hawk, number 400 for Carlos Beltran. 2-2 pitch, and he keeps it just inside that left field line. One swing of the bat. Changeup intended to be down and away. Cuts back over the inner portion of the plate, out in front, right to the barrel. You hear about a lot of times where a pitcher will speed up a bat, and that's exactly what happened. That changeup intended to be down and away. Paid the price for not getting it there.
And another big issue brings Betances, Miller, and Chapman into play. That ball hit deep. Austin can't get there, so Teixeira will pull up at second.
Well, we've had a chance. We saw this yesterday, and we're seeing it again today. You start getting into that middle third of the order. 3, 4, 5. Mark Teixeira, another breaking ball. Middle of the plate, up and in, right where Teixeira likes it. Fortunately for the White Sox, they catch a break. One hops the wall.
So 2 unearned runs. Ryan McCann 1 for 2. Hit by a pitch, fouled out to Avila, and then single. That evens the count.
This is where you have to really dig down deep. If you're Zach Duke, come and give up the big 2-run homer, and Teixeira off the base of the wall right here. Have to keep this at a 1-run game.
Beltran only the 4th switch hitter all time to reach 400 career home runs. Two and two.
Good breaking ball right there to get back into the count. Brian McCann sitting on a fastball. 2 balls and 1 strike. Good hard breaking ball away. For Zach Duke, time to make a real good pitch right here.
And a full count.
Not a lot of activity going on in that Yankee bullpen other than Betances right now.
Got him, but the damage is done. A 2-run homer by Beltran, and we'll go to the 7th. It is 5-4 Yankees.
John's Pizza all season long. The day after the Sox win, you get 50% off your entire online order of regular price menu items only at papajohns.com when you use the promo code SOXWIN at participating Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's.
Yankees lead at 5-4 here in the top of the 7th, and here's that big 6'8" right-hander, Dellin Betances.
Take a look at the numbers. They're staggering. 16 in the 3rd innings pitched. That's not a typo in the graphic. 3 walks, 32 strikeouts. Faced 4 White Sox hitters yesterday, Hawk. All 4 of them gone via the strikeout.
Well, the best thing we got going for us, we faced him yesterday. And that's what tomorrow's for. And today is from yesterday, tomorrow. So let's get him right here. Abreu. First pitch strike.
That's what makes him so tough. I think you have a chance with Betances. Occasionally he'll be a little erratic with his fastball command, but when he's pouring in that 98, you're going to see a steady diet of hard sliders. In my opinion, the best hard slider from a right-hander in baseball, and there it is.
You got to beat him on his fastball.
That pitch right there is virtually unhittable. We talked about it yesterday. This pitch right here, that's 83 miles an hour. Not only does it break, but it breaks down and it breaks across. I was telling you yesterday, played in a golf tournament with Brian McCann over the winter this past January, and I asked him about when they acquired Aroldis Chapman, what it's like to see Aaron Hicks moving into right field. To catch Aroldis Chapman and Miller and Betances, I said, of the three, you haven't caught Chapman yet. He said, Dan, you have no idea how hard it is to catch Betances. It's hard for me at times to catch him, and I know what's coming. The slider is so tight that at times, when it's halfway there, I can't distinguish the rotation. It's so tight that it looks like a four-seam spin that he catches me off guard. Well, so if it's that hard to catch, could you imagine what it's like to hit that?
Especially when it's the first time you've seen him in a long time. You hadn't seen him since last year. And there's a base hit to start it off.
How about that at bat right there? You fight off two vicious breaking balls and you catch a 97-mile-an-hour fastball in. Real strong at bat there by Jose Abreu.
Well,
and you can't be afraid to get jammed off this guy. If you're going to look away.
Well, you can't be afraid to get jammed on anybody, but especially a guy like this. You got to beat him on his fastball if you're a right-handed hitter.
Boy, this ball is in off the plate. See how he keeps his hands in close to his body, almost riding along that belly button. He gets those hands out extended. That bat's in two pieces.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. He can hit with short arms. Show me a big, strong guy who hits short arms, and I'll show you a good hitter. There's a breaking ball strike to Todd. Todd, 1 for 2 in this game. Todd did not see him yesterday, but
it just amazes me, Hawk. You sit up here and you watch how good you have to be. You know what it's like standing in that box. You have a vicious breaking ball, and yet a guy like Abreu to be able to get to a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. This guy, to me, if I were a right-hander, would be about as uncomfortable at bat as there is in the big leagues.
Well, that's a mindset. For me, being a right-handed hitter, I'd rather face Betances than I had Miller and or Chapman because of that left-handed slider. I could stand right on top of the plate of Betances and make him think a little bit about that slider and that breaking ball. Look for the fastball. If he gets me 3 sliders, I just grab some bench. There's nothing you can do about it because you ain't gonna hit it anyway.
Action in the White Sox bullpen too. Matt Albers off to a really good start here early on, 6 weeks into the season. Has put himself right into that mix, into the rotation of big part of that White Sox bullpen, trying to get the ball to David Robertson.
That last pitch was big. It's 3-1, and that's in the hole. So a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, 2 fastballs, 2 base hits.
Another fastball here from Betances, 96 miles an hour. Back-to-back, really good at bats by White Sox, by Jose Abreu. They're the Todd father, laying off that tough breaking ball, getting a fastball. Sox in business.
Yeah, that 2-1 pitch that had part of the zone was the first one we've gotten. Big difference against a Betances or a Miller or any good hard throwing major league pitcher with a good breaking ball. Big difference in 2-2 and 3-1.
Now the dilemma here, what do you do if you're Robin in the White Sox? You give up an out for a bunt?
I'm not going to give up Cabrera. No, if it was somebody else, I would. I wouldn't give up Melky.
And I think there are some pitchers that are easier to bunt than others. To me, this guy, his stuff is too good to think that you're just going to go up there and go ahead and bunt off this guy.
There's a shot. Fair ball, yes. Here comes Jose. Tied into third base. He's safe on the double, and this game is tied at 5. Yes.
Big hit there by the milkman. He delivers in the Bronx. Well, I saw this Yankees bullpen so dominant yesterday. We touched on it. Betances, 4 White Sox hitters faced, all 4 via the strikeout. Another fastball right here, 97 miles an hour. Almost hits it right out of the glove of Brian McCann. It keeps it just fair. A game of inches, right, Hawk? This one about 5 inches fair. Good kick off the roll there, and Abreu did a good job by Todd Frazier and Melky to get into scoring position.
There's a breaking ball, just misses. Laurie, now Brett faced him yesterday, struck him out, but at least he's more dangerous now because he saw him yesterday. Outfield slightly to the right. There was just more or less a get me breaking ball right there, get me over. Actually, pretty good pitch to hit of his breaking balls if you're going to get one.
You'll hear a lot of pitchers talk about that backup slider, the best pitch in baseball. Difficult part is it's a hard pitch to throw and mean to throw it.
So the infield was in, and that's 1 out.
One of the benefits right here, if you're Joe Girardi, you play the infield in, you cut down the angles. See a beautiful day here in the Bronx. Sunny skies, a little cool, and Joe Girardi played his cards right there. You bring the infielders in, you bunch them. You have the threat of you cut down a lot of range between your infielders when they're in that far in on the grass. But I think Joe Girardi realizes he needs to keep this game tight and stay away from that big part of the White Sox bullpen.
Breaking ball strike to Avi, who was 3 for 3 today. Also a run scored, RBI, and a stolen base. That breaking ball. Now that fastball gets about 6 inches quicker.
Well, you know what, though? All 3 hits, the single by Abreu, the base hit by Todd Frazier, and Melky Cabrera, all 3 on fastballs set up by multiple slider.
Well, the thing about it is, this is 0-2. So 2 down. And you got to beat him on. You're not going to beat him on his breaking ball if you're a right-handed hitter. You got to beat him on the fastball.
Well, this is what makes Betances so filthy. He has the ability to knock bats right out of your hands. Second and third, nobody out. White Sox looked like they were in business. Gets the ground ball from Brett Laurie to Didi Gregorius, the infield in, and the big strikeout.
Well, here's where the left-hander, Alex in this case, Alex can beat him on that slider much better than a right-handed hitter can. But not if he's going to backdoor you.
Like that. That's
not if he does that. You can grab some bench.
You know, occasionally I get a chance to watch Betances pitch quite a bit here on the East Coast. He can at times pull one of those breaking balls into the dirt. Maybe we can get fortunate here and get one that he'll spike into the ground. You can see he's much more comfortable. We talked about it yesterday. He reminds me a little bit in a different way of Carlos Marmol, formerly of the Cubs, who was more comfortable throwing the breaking ball than he is the fastball, which you find hard to believe. But with Dellin Betances, his best weapon is the slider. It's the pitch he'll go to in trouble.
Outfield for the most part straight up, spread out.
You almost get the sense right here with the base open and Tyler Saladino on deck.
I feel comfortable with Tyler against him.
I think if you're Alex right now, you're going to see a steady diet of breaking balls. If he wants to get himself out, fine. Another backdoor slider. Tough pitch to hit. If you're Alex right now, it's time to fight. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Time to go up, choke up on that bat about an inch, inch and a half, and make sure you just make a little contact. We get one. We're tied at 5.
Today's Major League Baseball scoreboard and schedule. You see Tampa 6-5 over the A's. Twins leading the Indians 5-1. Red Sox with a big win yesterday up on in the 6th inning 8-6. And the Orioles playing some good baseball. Royals up 1-0 over the Braves. The Blue Jays 1-0 over the Rangers. Later on 3 o'clock the Angels in Seattle. Over to the National League, Reds putting it to the Phillies. Nats losing 5-1 in Miami. Brewers up on San Diego. Cubs Pirates scoreless in the 6th inning. Later on, Mets at Colorado. Giants in the desert. Sunday night game. The Cardinals in Dodger Stadium taking on Big Blue and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Speaking of, for the Cubs, Starling Marte of the Pirates broke up John Lester, had a no-hitter through 6 innings. So top of the 7th, the Buccos able to break that no-hitter threat from John Lester. On for the White Sox, Hawk Matt Albers, one of the go-to guys. Record even at 1-1 ERA at 2.20. 4 walks, 11 strikeouts in 16 innings. His job right now, keep him right where we're at.
Well, Matt had that streak earlier that he was just unhittable. I mean, that sinker of his was magic. And we've got ourselves a 5-5 tie, so it's a new juego.
I got a kick. Watched a lot of the White Sox games from my office. I was watching this series in Toronto, and Matt made a play up the line on a swinging bunt. Made the play at first. Comes storming off the mound, high-fiving everybody.
That was a good play, man.
It was a terrific play.
Yeah.
We were calling him El Gato Grande, the big cat.
All right, here's Castro. It'll be Starling to lead it off. He is 1 for 3. Infield single that knocked in a run. 5-12-1 for us, 5-7-0 for them. Here in the rubber match of this 3-game set, we took the opener 7-1, and they won last night 2-1. First pitch strike.
You'd have to think if you're Joe Girardi right now, having gone to Betances yesterday, 4 hitters, 4 strikeouts. That'd probably be it. Andrew Miller up and warming in the Yankee bullpen right now. There is a good look at him, and awfully impressive yesterday in a 1-2-3 8th inning. We talked about it actually on the bus over this morning. The sequence of pitches to Jose Abreu yesterday were about as good a sequence of back-to-back breaking balls as you'll see.
Well, that note that the Yankees had about Kirby Yates was wrong. My buddy just between innings texted me, Kirby Higbee. That ball is hit hard, but Tyler's got it.
One of the things I like, there's a nice play. That's a bullet hit right to Tyler. What I've liked, what I've seen so far early in the year from Matt Albers, Hawk, on a beautiful Sunday afternoon here in the Bronx. He's not afraid to fill that strike zone up. We saw earlier in the game Miguel Gonzalez kind of tiptoeing, dancing around the strike zone. You're getting a look at the big fella right here. He's been really impressive. And he's pitched himself into that mix, into that 7th, 8th inning. Primary setup guy, tie game situation kind of guy, and Robin Ventura feels very comfortable.
Everybody feels, the thing about it, everybody feels comfortable with it. Not just a pitching coach or not just a manager. His teammates feel comfortable. You know how much that means a lot.
And listen, having spent 18 years in the bullpen, there's a dynamic that shakes itself out once the season starts. And I think Robin and Don Cooper and Sox fans, you're going to figure out who that guy is, or those the guys are that are the tie game guys, that are the guys you bring in with when you're up by a run, and that those things, they sort themselves out as the season goes on. But
you framed it nicely. That's the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of times the manager likes a pitcher where the players don't. They don't have a good feeling about him when he comes in, and it does sort itself out. That is high into right center field.
And I think there's something to be said when you have a guy like Matt Albers that comes in and he's not afraid, right-handers or left-handers, and he pours the ball into the strike zone. And it's an easy thing to do when you're brought in, Hawk, in the 7th and the 8th inning, because normally you're going through a difficult part of the lineup where you're coming in where there's a lot of trouble. You're coming in, and I call it the troubleshooters. And you have to make sure when you come in from the bullpen that the first pitch you make is the right pitch. Because if you're facing a good team or a good lineup, for example, you come in 1st and 3rd and 2 outs as a lefty, you might not get a chance to throw a second one. The first one might end up in the bleachers or in the gap, and the next one really doesn't matter. So you have to make sure the first pitch is the right pitch, and you can't be afraid to attack the strike zone. And that's what I've been impressed with Albers.
Well, our whole club is, as I just said, because he doesn't care who's coming up to the plate. He's coming after you. He's going to do what he does, and that's throw that good hard sinker strike in that little slider. But you've been in many games as I have, and I'd be in right field at Fenway, and there'd be a couple guys warming up for us. And the manager would come out to get one of them, and I said, please don't bring in Jimmy Jones. Please don't bring him in.
You know, it's a feeling. It's a weird dynamic. It's a pitcher-hitter, a hitter-pitcher dynamic that you can tell when a guy walks into a box. You can tell by body language, the eye test. You know, does a guy look timid? Does he look scared? You see the 3-0 pitch, just, make Gregorius hit his way on. The last thing you want to do is fall behind. But I'm a big believer in that. And I said it Friday, I said it yesterday, and to repeat it again, I think as a reliever, you have 2 choices to make when that bullpen gate opens. You're going to hunt, or you're going to be the hunted.
All right, they'll bring up Torres.
I think Joe Girardi is bringing Torreyes back. It looks like Chase Headley.
So it'll be Chase Headley. Torreyes was 0 for 3. 3 ground balls. 1 to short, 1 to third, 1 to second.
We were talking Friday night when Chris Sale, how up to that point Chase Headley had 1 extra base hit on the year, and he promptly put one in the seats off of Chris Sale. But we both touched on it. We thought that was a good thing for Chris. Kind of get himself refocused. Take a look at Headley on the year. 31 games, 192. A little bit more power from this side, the left side, than he does from the right side.
That ball's hit hard. He's not going to be able to get that one. That walk indeed is going to come around and score. And it's a 6-5 Yankee lead.
You go back to that last inning, Hawk. Able to tie that game up, second and third, nobody out. We'll take another look at it right here. First pitch fastball, intended to be down and away, kind of outer third and up. And Headley drives this ball, one hops that center field wall. With the speed of Didi Gregorius, really no play, and big 2-out base hit, double from Chase Headley. His first double of the year.
So here's Ellsbury. 1 for 4. Six-5 Yankees. They have 6 runs. We have 5. We have 12 hits. They have 8.
Good pitch, changeup right there from Matt Albers. We've yet to see that from him in his arsenal. Has Jacoby Ellsbury out front. Take a look at the line score right here. White Sox fight back and tie the game up in the top of the 7th off a tough guy in Betances. Yankees answer right back. Andrew Miller up and lurking for the Yankees in that bullpen.
Yeah, stop it. He does the jump, the peg, the grab. What are they doing?
Probably catcher's interference.
Catcher's interference.
You see Alex, shot of Alex right there with a mask up.
Home plate umpire didn't say anything. First base umpire didn't say anything.
Slow it down and take a look right here.
Yep.
See if he, he does. You can see Alex kind of pull it back, try to get it out of the way, the scene of the crime.
Yep. So Headley back to second. An error on Avila.
Hasn't been easy this afternoon for the White Sox. Yankees with traffic all day long on the bases.
Well, we hadn't made an error since June 30th. And now we've made 2 in 2 innings. Oh, and 1 to count to Gardner. It's knocked down, and everybody's going to be safe. That'll load him up.
This is a tough play for a pitcher. See this line drive coming right back at Matt Albers, right at his glove side. What makes it so difficult, Hawk, for a pitcher to make that play is the background. You're looking at a lot of different color shirts behind home plate. You don't have the luxury that a hitter does of having that batter's eye where you're able to distinguish and pick the ball up. It's tough picking it out of white and yellow, different colored shirts behind home plate.
So Don Cooper out. Carlos Beltran at the plate.
Going back to the 6th inning, our Mazda replay. Carlos Beltran, 400th career home run, and a big one. That replay brought to you by Mazda.
Alex Rodriguez, first one to greet him. Now we got the sacks packed with Yankees. Beltran also sacrifice fly in the first inning. So he's got home run, 3 RBIs, and he scored twice.
It's amazing to go back and look at these 2 games, Hawk, how the base on balls has hurt the White Sox yesterday. Starter Jose Quintana with 2 outs. In the inning that he gave up the 2 runs, had an 0-2 count on Chase Headley, walked him.
Well,
led to the big inning. 2 outs right away this afternoon for Matt Albers.
Watch out. All right, but they do come up with a run, and they lead at 6-5.
Honda game summary. Take a look at Yankees 6-5. Miguel Gonzalez 4 2/3, 3 earned runs. Carlos Beltran with the big 2-run home run, his 400th career home run. Brought to you by Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda, now at your Honda dealer. Well, here comes leg 2 of that nasty bullpen. Andrew Miller scored the 8th inning yesterday. Amazing. A lot of people in baseball, Hawk. Yankees signed him to a 3-year, $36 million contract 2 years ago. 1 career save before that big contract, and he's been worth every nickel. Chase Headley, after that big go-ahead double, moves back to third base.
They lead at 6-5 here in the top of the 8th inning. And to touch on what you were talking about to end the inning, how the base on balls has hurt us the last couple of days, you know. And then the 2 errors we made, those are the first 2 errors we made. We had a 12-game scoreless streak there. The last error we made was on June 30th. That is a team record. 12 straight games. June. Excuse me, April 30th. But I don't want to change a thing. Even if we lose this game today, I don't want to change a thing. These guys are in a great frame of mind. They're playing great baseball. You're going to get beat. That was just a good baseball game last night. You're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. It's what you do to those other 42. We still got a large part of that 42s in the bank. Last year, we used them all up in a hurry.
And Hawk, going back to even, you look at the 7 innings, it would have been real easy for the White Sox to lay down after what they saw yesterday. Betances so dominant. Andrew Miller, who's in game right now, Aroldis Chapman. That was a talk of baseball that Joe Girardi was able to unleash that big three. Give the White Sox credit. You know, put some pressure on Dellin Betances to tie this. And this one's far from over.
Oh, you better believe it.
Andrew Miller, he's not unhittable.
Let me tell you something. This game is far from over. And the thing about it is our club feels the same way. That's in the right field. And that's out number 1. So Saladino now 2 for 4.
We talked about it yesterday, how impressive that was to watch that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning yesterday from the Yankees. But I've seen enough of Aroldis Chapman. I get it. There hasn't been a lefty to throw like he has, I think, in the history of baseball that hits 101 and 102. But he can get wild. And he was on the verge yesterday of a couple of walks. He was dancing around some trouble yesterday. I really thought, for my money, that Betances and Miller were much more impressive than Aroldis Chapman was. And everybody wanted to talk about Chapman because of the 101, 102 miles an hour. Betances yesterday was as good as I've seen him all season long, and so was Andrew Miller.
Todd Frazier almost got Chapman yesterday. First man he faced, he almost got him. He almost took him out of here. He had 2 good swings on him. He was all over him. Talked with Todd about that a little bit this morning. He said it was almost right there.
You know, I had a chance after the game yesterday to drop by the Yankee booth, and their play-by-play guy, Michael Cade, was telling them what we thought it was so impressive to watch. And he said Buck Showalter last year managed, or 2 years ago, had Andrew Miller until they traded him, or they acquired him from the Red Sox. And he said that Buck thought that lefties had a better chance to put the ball in play off of Miller than righties. Because with a lefty, you have a chance to go ahead and serve that breaking ball to left field. With a right-hander, it's virtually impossible to lay out that breaking ball that comes down and in at your back foot.
Got him. So 2 out.
White Sox Charity invites fans to celebrate 25 years of giving with $25 for 25. Donate $25 or more on May 18th and 19th with a chance to win White Sox prizes, including autographed items and experience. And for information and to participate, whitesox.com/Sox25.
Well, besides getting that run to tie it up last inning, we also turned the lineup over. So we're going to get Abreu, we're going to get Frazier, we're going to get Cabrera, and hopefully a couple more if we don't do anything here in the 8th.
Joe Girardi had a quote yesterday on using the big three. Quote, "We knew these 3 would be the type of games. We knew this would be the type of games that we would use all 3 of them. And if they could line up, it would be pretty good." I'd say so.
Well, Joe's become quite a manager. He was a good manager when he got here, and he's just gotten better. All right, a 1-2-3 inning for Andrew Miller.
MLB.com @bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live Game Day, video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com @bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone and tablet.
Pitching change for our guys. Nate Jones coming on. There you see the numbers on Nate. He's got Teixeira, McCann, and Castro.
Boy, much like the Yankees have Betances and Miller to get the ball to roll this Chapman, this is the bridge. This is the guy for the White Sox to get that ball to David Robertson in the 9th inning. Good fastball, 95. Good off-speed pitches. I think the way things have shaken themselves out now into the 2nd week of May, this is the guy you're going to see. We need some tough outs, and I don't think Robin would be afraid to go to Nate if he had to get the last out in the 7th to get through an 8th inning. This is a quality reliever that is all the way back from his arm injury.
Well, I talked to the opposing hitters. I've talked to probably 10 or 12 guys this year about Nate, and not one of them wants to. Well, let's put it this way: they're major league hitters, so they're going. Not one of them likes to face it.
I think what makes him unique, his delivery, Hawk, is a little bit unique. He has a little
part of it.
hesitation.
That's part of it.
And it disrupts. You know, hitters love that timing, and I've listened to you for years talk about how you have to have your timing. There's a good look at Miguel Gonzalez, 4 2/3 this afternoon. You know, hoping somehow, some way the White Sox can tie this thing up. But he has a slight little hesitation. He brings that arm up, and he's tough to center, and he's tough to time.
It's almost like one of those Asian pitchers who always have a little slight move of some sort in their delivery.
I think 2 things that you must have if you want to pitch at this big league level and be successful: deception and angles. That's what the Yankees do best.
It's 7-5.
Brian McCann taking advantage of that short porch. Keeps it just inside that 314 marker. Big insurance run right there. 5th home run of the year for Brian McCann. His pitch intended to be down and away. You see that Nate misses his spot by a good 8 to 10 inches right into that happy zone of Brian McCann, and pays the price, keeps it just inside the fair pole in right field.
So here's Castro. He's 1 for 4 with an RBI, had an infield single. Well, McCann, to me, is as dangerous as any hitter in this lineup. Gobin 94 runs last year, hit 26 homers. He's one of those guys, you make a mistake and he's going to get you. You make a decent pitch, you're going to get him. For our guys in the 9th, Abreu, Frazier, Cabrera, Laurie, Garcia, and hopefully a couple of more. If you're just tuning in, we've out hit these guys 12-10, but they have outscored us 7-5, and a couple of errors have really hurt us.
Getting back to Brian McCann, so many productive years. Multi-time All-Star with the Braves. 229 home runs for Brian McCann to go along with a 268 career average.
He's dangerous.
He is. And he's one of those guys that hits good pitching late in games.
When they make a mistake. Because you know yourself, when you had your good stuff and your good control out there and you didn't make any mistakes, you didn't get hit. Now, when you did make some mistakes, you got hit.
It just, this game, really, this afternoon's game, will show you how tough it can be. We're getting another look at Brian McCann. I think a guy like Betances yesterday, Hawk, was so dominant. 4 hitters, 4 strikeouts. And before you know it, hit. Second and third, nobody out. But he He has the pitches to get out of trouble, and that's one of the things that makes Betances so dangerous. Game was tied. White Sox looked like they were in business. Second and third, nobody out. Gets Brett Lawrie to ground to Didi Gregorius with the infield drawn in, and then he goes strikeout, strikeout. We're going to get a look at Aroldis Chapman.
Hicks. Fouls that away. 0-2 the count. Now, I just want our club to stay right where they're at. They're in a great frame of mind. They're giving Robin 27 outs. First time we've done that in a long time. Most importantly, they're catching the baseball.
We touched on it too Friday night. First 26 games, 16 of those 26 games were on the road. I think right now, if you're Robin Ventura, Don Cooper, Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, if somebody would have told you heading into the 7th week of the season and you were 11 games over 500, it is what it is. 5-game lead in the American League Central going into the 3rd week of May. You'd sign up for that every day of the week.
No question. I told my wife if we were 500 or a couple of games, 1 or 2 games under in April, we would have had a good month with that schedule. It's the worst schedule I've ever seen. 1 off day in April.
And weathered a tough week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 2 long games. A real seesaw game Tuesday night. Carlos Rondon Wednesday gutted out through a long rain delay. Came back out. Was able to get into the 7th inning. Lose a tough game. And Chris Sale Friday night does what an ace should do. And he's established himself right now to swing and a miss. He's the best pitcher in the American League. Make no bones about it. 8-0. It's time to get to this guy, Aroldis Chapman. He's beatable too.
Let's go. Seven 10-0 for the Yankees. 5-12 and a big 2 for our Sox. If you're just joining us, first 2 errors we've made since April 30th. 12-game errorless streak, the most in franchise history. But a pitching change.
There he is, hardest thrower in Major League Baseball right now, Aroldis Chapman. We touched on it Friday and Saturday. I don't think we've seen anybody like him in a game of baseball from the left side coming out of the bullpen. Yesterday, several pitches, Hawk, at 102 miles an hour. But at times, he can get erratic. He hasn't thrown his breaking ball as much as he has in the past. He's primarily a one-pitch pitcher. If you're Jose Abreu, get it dialed up, because he is aggressive with the fastball.
He is 1 for 4. Started off against Betances in the 7th with a rocket single in the hole.
And there's a first pitch breaking ball right on cue, right?
We'll give it to him.
Threw one breaking ball all day yesterday. Starts Abreu out with a first pitch slider.
Now they're all speed. Only bad thing, Yankees have a pretty good streak going for them. They have a 140 game winning streak. 140 game winning streak when leading after 8 innings.
It's about time that comes to an end. Let's
You
let it
better
happen
believe
right
it.
here.
You better believe it.
This guy could get wild. Now, I know he's the most dominant left-handed relief pitcher we've seen probably in the last 50 years. But home plate, at times, moves around a little bit on Aroldis Chapman.
I don't know if dominant is the right way I'd frame it. He's the hardest throwing left-hander we've seen ever. Left-handed reliever.
I can't recall anybody. Some of the great left-handed relievers. Dave Righetti was a hard thrower at one time. John Franco, more of a change-up type of guy. Randy Myers was a hard thrower at one time with the Reds and with the Cubs.
Sparky Lyle was a pretty good left-handed reliever. I'd rather face Aroldis Chapman than Sparky Lyle with that slider he had, because he could throw it for strikes. I'd rather face this guy than face you with that slider you had. I can hit his 102. I can't hit that slider, though, if he gets it over. But he's liable not to get it over. There it is at 98. A good pass on it.
Interesting sequence of pitches here to Jose Abreu. We talked about it. Fastball. Pitch tracks here from infinity. First 2 pitches of the bat. You can see pitches 1 and 2. The breaking balls, 1 down and in, 1 up and away. Falls behind 3-0. But when you have the luxury of 97 to 100, you can go ahead and attack the zone. That's why that run, too, is such a big run. The solo home run by Brian McCann. I can tell you from experience pitching that 9th inning, Hawk, you'll be a little bit hesitant to go ahead and pump fastballs into Jose Abreu if the score was still 6-5. At 7-5, it's a little bit different story.
Frees you up a little bit, doesn't it?
Sure does. When you have the freedom to know, okay, I have 1 run to work with, I have a base, I have a hitter to work with, but those 1-run games, the 3-0, 3-1 counts, tough to pitch like that.
Well, those games affect your sphincter.
We touched on it. You know, there are some relievers that are built to handle the pressure of the 9th inning, and I know that's the big thing in the Sabre community right now, that, you know, anybody, if you could pitch the 7th, you could pitch the 9th. I've done both. I've done the 7th, I've done the 9th. The 7th is easier than the 9th.
Let me tell you, whoever with those sabermetricians, so to speak, comes up with that, they never had a jockstrap on. Anybody who says the 25th, 6th, and 7th are the toughest 3 outs in the game to get, they're full of it. So coming in here, we knew the Yankees had been playing better.
You know, getting to that topic, former White Sox guy that intrigued me, that seemed, remember Matt Thornton?
Oh, sure.
Attacked the zone in the 7th and the 8th. In the few opportunities that the White Sox gave Matt Thornton, thought, hey, this could be our guy to pitch the 9th inning. He was a different pitcher, Hawk, trying to get outs 25, 26, and 27.
Matt knew his role, and he played it great. Boy, you bring him in the 7th, and you could just 1, 2, 3. And what a great kid he was, or he is. Once again, the payoff. Another good swing.
How about this at bat by Abreu, right? And I like this too.
Well, again,
100 miles out. He worked yesterday, make him throw a lot of pitches.
Abreu, Frazier, Cabrera, they don't care if you're throwing 100, but just don't get your secondary pitch over. Don't get that slider over, because then all of a sudden that 100 goes up to 104, 105 to the eye of the hitter.
This will be the 12th pitch of this at bat coming up with Todd Frazier lurking. In my opinion, best pure fastball hitter on this White Sox team. If Abreu can get on.
Gregorius. 1 out. But look at Nolan Ryan, one of the hardest throwers in the history of the game. He threw as hard, if not harder than Robles. And he was not tough to face until he learned how to get that curveball over. When he learned how, then he became
a great pitcher.
Same could be said for Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
Threw hard, big time slider. It wasn't really towards the end of the Mariner career, and when Randy Johnson signed that big deal with the Diamondbacks, that he really learned how to pitch after a meeting with Nolan Ryan in Arlington.
Here's Todd.
Had a great, I played with Randy for 2 years in Arizona. Had a great story about, we were sitting on a plane one day and there's a straight changeup, which you very rarely see. Talking about, boy, your walks are down. How'd you do it? He said, the best thing, I get to 3-0, I just hit guys. Just hit them.
Another off-speed pitch.
See, this is back to, this is familiarity. Aroldis Chapman, Todd Frazier, teammates on the Cincinnati Reds. Don't think that Chapman doesn't know that Todd is a very, and I mean very good fastball hitter.
Don't think he knows that he just missed a couple yesterday.
He was right on about 3 of those 102-mile-an-hour fastballs. Now, this is almost unfair right now after a couple of changeups. If he brings that 101, 102, it'd be hard to catch up.
It was at 98, high in the right field. Well, I'll tell you where Randy Johnson got that from was from Stan Williams from the Dodgers, when Stan was one of the hardest throwers in the game, and he had a $10,000 clause in his contract on walks. Buzzy Babasi, and every time he went to 3-0, he just drilled him. Hitters knew what to do about the contract. They knew about the clause. They didn't want to get to 3-0 on him. Meanwhile, it's up to Melky, who's 2 for 3, 2 doubles, and RBI for walking a run scored in this game. And when that ball comes down, it's 141 straight games that the Yankees have won when leading after 8, and they take the rubber match of this 3-game set. And we'll be back to wrap it up right after this.